Good morning to you. It's 6 o'clock. It's Friday, the 4th of November. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Dan.
And we're live across the whole of the UK on both your TV and your radio. In fact, wherever you are, you can take us with you. Here are your top stories this morning.
The Bank of England has raised interest rates by 0.75 percentage points, bringing it up to 3%. It's the 8th rise since last December, the biggest since 1989. Stay with us to find out how this is going to affect your mortgage.
Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan is still in hospital but is said to be in a stable condition. He was injured in an assassination attempt whilst giving a speech at a rally in Punjab, wounding him and some of his supporters.
And Me Too from a male perspective. Stephanie Tetchy is going to be here to tell us all about Brendan Fraser's experience, as well as his great comeback film, The Whale.
And as ever, of course, you can join in any of our discussions by emailing us gbviews@gbnews.uk.
So let's kick off, should we, with all the financial news this morning, because the Chancellor is set to launch a raid on capital gains as savers, landlords and entrepreneurs are set to lose out in the autumn statement.
Jeremy Hunt is attempting to plug that £50 billion black hole in public finances, and higher taxes on capital gains and dividends could raise nearly £16 billion of it, allegedly.
Well, with the UK expecting to face its longest recession on record, lasting more than a year, the Prime Minister has warned, at the moment, there are no easy choices.
That's what we keep being told, and it's really cheering, isn't it? Let's speak to the Economics Director at the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Surin Thero. Hello. A very good morning to you, except that it doesn't feel like a good morning when we have to read out headlines like that. How tough is it going to be for all of us to take this?
Well, yesterday, Bank of England used a pretty awful set of forecasts, really. As you say, longest recession on record, higher unemployment, and of course we also saw a really sharp rise in interest rates yesterday. And it's clearly a concern because what you're seeing at the moment is a bit of a perfect storm for consumers and businesses, where they're seeing interest rates rise sharply, they're seeing the cost of their everyday shop go up, energy bills rise, and they're also expecting tax increases in the next couple of weeks. And that means we're going to see both consumer spending starting to weaken, but also business investing is likely to weaken as well over the coming months.
I mean, what are we likely to see in our own pockets as far as our mortgages are concerned? I mean, there was some talk in some of the papers saying if the average sort of homeowner was likely to remortgage, it could cost them an extra £3,000 a year. Yeah,
we are going to certainly see quite a sharp jump. Because even on the typical tracker mortgage, your average monthly payment will go up by around £70 because of yesterday's rate increase. And we see the sharp increase in what people are paying since the start of the year as Bank of England have increased rates sharply. But one sign of encouragement for mortgage holders is that the Bank of England did say they don't expect interest rates to rise as sharply as maybe the market expects. That's a bit of positive news, but of course it's going to be a really difficult winter for a lot of people, particularly mortgage holders, those who are coming off fixed deals and those who are on variable rate loans.
And for those people who maybe think that they can just about brace themselves to get through what you call a hard winter, how long will this go on for, do you think, before we feel any sign of recovery?
Well, I think next year is going to be the really tough year because interest rates, in terms of impact on the real economy, it takes about a year for it to filter through into people's pockets, into people coming off fixed deals and that sort of thing. So the real impact of these interest rate rises won't happen until really next year. And at that time, you're also getting tax increases as well. So that's a concern. But one thing the Bank of England did project is that they do think inflation will start to fall quite sharply next year, not least because of the recessionary climate, which will take demand out of the economy and reduce overall level of prices. But that's pretty hard, that's pretty uncertain, as the Bank of England mentioned yesterday as well. That's contingent on what happens to energy prices, and that's the big unknown at the moment, because that's still the largest driver of inflation, and how that sort of pans out over the next couple of years ultimately determine how the UK economy does.
How do these things work? Because we know the rate has been put up to help combat inflation, and we know it's likely to rise again to combat inflation. But as you said, there was talk about potentially inflation dropping quite sharply. Presumably, the interest rates wouldn't drop as sharply straight afterwards in case that then pushed inflation back up again.
Yeah, what the Bank of England is really concerned about is not necessarily where inflation is at the moment. It's where it becomes embedded, and that we see permanently higher prices. Because, of course, a lot of what's driving inflation at the moment is global factors, and interest rates can't really do a lot about that. But what they're trying to do is to ward off those sort of temporary factors driving inflation, like the energy price shock we're seeing at the moment, feeding through into permanently higher prices in supermarkets, and higher wages, for example, as well, which will create permanently higher inflation. And that's what they're trying to target by trying to lower demand in the economy. But of course, by doing that, there's a lot of collateral damage, and that means, for example, potentially higher unemployment as well.
Tough times ahead, as you said. Thank you very much indeed for joining us so early on in the morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Of course, one of the other things that I've been looking at some of the headlines about the Manchester Arena bombing inquiry. The chair of that, Sir John Saunders, delivered an absolutely scathing report on it.
Very bad, wasn't it?
Basically says that all of the people who died were so massively let down, not by individuals who I'm sure tried heroically to do their best, but by a lack of joined-up thinking on behalf of the emergency services who simply didn't get to them in time. But one thing I found fascinating, and I don't know if you'd know what to do, is the average Joe Public. You're there, you haven't been hurt. Do you know how to help somebody who has? Do you really know? And Sir John Saunders actually said, if we've got a little clip of him saying this, that it's not just about emergency services. Maybe we all have to be trained in what to do if there's a trauma near us. Listen to what he said.
Finally, but not least important, members of the public who are unlucky enough to find themselves at the aftermath of a disaster and choose to remain and help should have the opportunity to get training to enable them to do something which may save a life.
I think it's a very valid point, and of course the thing that jumps to my mind is St John's Ambulance,
yes,
which is a volunteer service, and they do classes often with children, has to be said. But I think we do all need to be trained. I think I was in St John's Ambulance.
Were you?
And so I think I would have at least some ideas.
Smattering of how to put somebody in the recovery position.
Yeah, it far from makes you an expert, but you wonder how much under those circumstances would just come flooding back and think, actually, I need to do this, this and this.
But we should all be trained in this sort of thing, shouldn't we? We should be learning it at school, definitely. Is that when you learned?
As a teenager, yeah.
We should all learn it when we're at school, and maybe we should all, not everybody can, but maybe we should all go for those sort of refresher courses. And maybe people like the St John's Ambulance need further funding so that they can actually provide courses. I know if I was alongside somebody who just had their leg blown off, I would not know really what to do. Tourniquet?
Yeah, well,
It
would be a tourniquet.
Or if they've got a stomach wound, what do you do? Do any of us know enough? But very clearly, the chairman felt that that was a point worth making in these particular human stories of all those people who died or were very badly injured following the Manchester Arena attack. Do get in touch if you know anything about this. Have you been trained? Have you ever been challenged by that? Somebody near you has a heart attack in the street. Do you know what to do? Has it ever happened to you? Love to hear your view. gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Now, at 6:09, let's bring you up to date with the other headlines today. Oh, no, we're going to forget that, actually, and go straight to our next guest, who's talking about Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan, who's been shot in an assassination attempt at a rally, but we're told is now in a stable condition.
Yes, it was horrific and actually caught on camera. A gunman opened fire at Imran Khan's convoy as he was leading a protest march on Islamabad to demand a snap election. One person was killed, 5 others were injured.
Well, let's talk to senior anchor and executive producer at Neo News, Fareed Rais. He's in Wazirabad. Morning to you. Really good to see you this morning. First and foremost, what do we know about the condition of Imran Khan today?
Good morning, Stephen and Anne, and thank you so much for having me on your show. It has been told that the PTI chairman and the ex-Prime Minister Imran Khan is now in a stable condition, and he is now doing good. But as you all know about the yesterday's event about the assassination attempt at Imran Khan, so there is a anger with his supporters. Uh, Today, as you all know, there is a countrywide protest has been called on by the PTI, by Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, to protest on this assassination attempt. So today, the people, all the supporters, all those who support Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, all those who love Imran Khan or the support Imran Khan, they will protest today in the assassination attempt which was made on Imran Khan.
I mean, it's a very dangerous thing to be a politician or a leader of people going on marches like that in Pakistan, isn't it? I'm afraid the record for assassinations and assassination attempts is very, very high. Do you think security was tight enough, or is Imran Khan pretty relaxed about that sort of thing?
Yeah, you are very right about it, that in Pakistan, there has always been a danger, there has always been a threat for the political leaders here in Pakistan. And in the past, we have seen the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Benazir Bhutto, she was shot, she was assassinated there. And yes, it is the thing. Yes, that as you asked about, that Imran Khan's security, he had the threats. Imran Khan himself also, the leaders, all the political leaders of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, yes, they have shown their concerns about the threat to Imran Khan in this long march, what he called about, and which was started on 28th of October from Lahore, Liberty, and he planned to take this long march to Islamabad. There was a threat present. There are many concerns about this security. Yes, now the questions has been raised why the security was not up to the mark when there was a threat to Imran Khan's security, when there was a threat, when there was a concern shown about that there could be an attack on this long march. So there are concerns, there are many questions raised by the Chief Minister of Punjab, who himself is allied to the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, because there is a government of PTI in Punjab. So as I witnessed, I was also reporting from there. I witnessed all the things. I witnessed the things. So in my opinion, what I saw about it, that in spite of all the security threats, in spite of all the concerns which were raised by PTI, by his chairman also, that security was not to that up to the mark. In the recent past, we have seen that Imran Khan had addressed, while addressing some rallies or addressing the people, he has used bulletproof glass or the shield in front of him. But in this long march, we didn't witness any kind of a bulletproof shield. There had been an advice, or it was said that the security forces will not allow anybody to come closer to Imran Khan or to come closer to his container. But I couldn't saw this SOP to be followed. There were peoples, there were his followers. They all were chanting slogans. They wished to see a glimpse of Imran Khan, and they at many occasions, at many times, they were too close to the container also. So yes, they are, because the counter-terrorism department was there yesterday night. The counter-terrorism department arrived the crime scene, the cordon off. They were investigating the crime scene. They were investigating the place, how this incident happened. So they also raised the concern about these things. What the question you have asked me.
Yeah, Farid Ray, it's really good to talk to you this morning. Thank you very much indeed. Appreciate it. As you say, Amy, it's a very dangerous place to be involved in politics. I remember I spoke to Benazir Bhutto.
Me too. She was lovely.
She was very nice. But I spoke to her just about a week before she was shot. And
I
it was the
remember
most
thinking at the time,
extraordinary situation.
when I met her, I remember thinking, well, in fact, I think I asked her, why would you want to? Because wasn't her father assassinated
Yes,
as well?
yeah,
And
yeah.
you think, why would you? I mean, I know they love their country and they want to lead it. But gosh, I mean, historically, so many leaders in Pakistan have been assassinated. And it's just terrible. Yes, she was a lovely lady. I met her once for lunch.
Oh.
She came to lunch at Good Morning with Anne and Nick at the BBC.
Oh.
And she brought her sons with her, and we all had lovely pictures. And she was just delightful, a real human being. And then, as you say, weeks later, shot dead. Absolutely
Awful.
appalling.
Look, don't go anywhere. We want to hear about... We want you to get in touch this morning about how you're feeling about the financial situation. But also, if you've got a problem with chronic pain, because if you do, perhaps some help and advice after the weather.
Hello, I'm Aidan McGibbon from the Met Office. It's a chilly start out there for many of us, the coldest morning for some time. Further showers continue through the morning and into the afternoon for some, but for many, sunny spells. Now, an area of low pressure which has brought some lively showers overnight is now clearing the far southeast. Once that's out of the way, we've got this ridge of high pressure which has already brought clear skies and lighter winds to northern and western parts of the country, and that's why we've had that chill in the air first thing, but plenty of bright weather, and actually for many, it's a sunny afternoon. Temperatures in many places struggling after that cold start, but with the sunshine and light winds feeling pleasant enough. Now, there'll be some further showers into the northwest of Scotland, running through the Irish Sea into northwest England and North Wales, but away from those, and with the bright skies, feeling fine. 13 or 14 in the south, 10 or 11 in the north. Into the evening, there'll be further clear spells for a time, and as a result, temperatures fairly widely will fall away, but there'll also be further showers into the west, and then by the end of the night, cloud and a freshening breeze, as well as spells of rain, will move into the west of the UK, so Northern Ireland, West Wales and the southwest corner. That will lead to an uptick in temperatures by the end of the night, 9 Celsius in places, but a touch of frost is possible across central and eastern Scotland, eastern England as well. It's here where we'll see the brightest skies first thing, but really by about 9 or 10 in the morning, the outbreaks of rain in the west have pushed east. The rain will weaken as the day goes on. It will become lighter and more patchy. It will also clear Northern Ireland, western Scotland to sunny spells. 13 Celsius in Northern Ireland, 11 for Scotland, 13 or 14 across large parts of England and Wales, albeit with the strong breeze and those outbreaks of rain. The rain eventually clears southeastwards through Saturday night and into Sunday, could last for some time in the southeast on Sunday itself. Showers follow widely elsewhere.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Welcome back. 20 minutes past 6. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
Now, more than 2/5 of people in Britain suffer from some form of chronic pain by the time they're in their mid-40s. That's according to the latest research.
Well, scientists have found that persistent bodily pain in your mid-40s is also associated with poor health in later life.
We're joined now by co-author of that study, Professor Alex Bryson. Very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. When we talk about chronic pain, what sort of pain are we talking about? It's something that you cannot get rid of. It's persistent.
It's persistent for a lot of people. So the special thing about this study is we follow people over the whole life course from birth. So we find, for instance, people who report childhood serious pain will often report it in midlife as well. It's not true for everybody, but it persists for a lot of people. And by chronic pain, we mean pain that you report for at least 3 months. So it's pretty serious stuff. We do have information on shorter duration pain as well, but it's really the chronic pain that's most strongly associated with poor outcomes later in life.
Again, what sort of thing are we talking about? I mean, you tend to assume something like back pain because we know that can go on for a very long time, but is it general joint pain, things like frozen shoulder?
It can be all sorts of things, in fact, Stephen. Yeah, in the paper, we actually have a chart that nurses turn up and take readings for people at age 44. And as part of that, we have a map of your body and we ask people to point to where the pain is. A lot of it is in the back. In fact, the paper spends a bit of time talking about back pain, but you're quite right. It can come from all sorts of places and originate for all sorts of different reasons. The focus of the paper is not really on different types of pain. It's simply on your reports of having persistent pain over a period that's 3 months.
Yeah, and traditionally, at least anecdotally, we're not very good at helping that sort of pain, are we? A couple of paracetamols just doesn't do the trick, and yet it can be, if it goes on for very long, it can really bring you down.
Well, I'm not a health expert as such. I really focus on economic outcomes, but in the course of this study, we came across a whole special edition of The Lancet, which emphasised the lack of focus and lack of interest in society generally about chronic pain. Many people often reporting chronic pain not being taken seriously because, unlike a broken arm or something like that, or a gash, you don't necessarily see it. And as a consequence, people underestimate the impacts that it can have on people's well-being. We look at outcomes as broad as sleep, depression, anxiety, life satisfaction, pessimism about the future. All these things measured in your 50s and 60s are actually predicted by having chronic pain back in your 40s and sometimes even in childhood.
What's the difference? What's the split between men and women on this?
There isn't a great difference there, Stephen. The outcome, the incidence is relatively similar, and the outcomes for men and women are fairly similar.
And what about the long-term impacts then, in terms of health later on in life?
Yeah, I mean, even we follow these people right through to age 62. And guess what's happening at age 62 for these people who were born in 1958, the COVID outbreak? We discover that having chronic pain in your 40s predicts a higher incidence of COVID infection at age 62. So the whole range of outcomes here, many of which we don't claim to fully understand in the paper, but suggest that chronic pain is a marker for health vulnerability that can persist literally for 20 or 30 years.
Which suggests that we ought to be taking it a lot more seriously, a lot earlier. Do you come to that sort of conclusion in your report? Do you actually call for any action?
Absolutely. I mean, that's essentially the conclusion from the report, that we want everybody in society, whether it's academics like myself, policy people, whether they're working in health or related social areas, should be focusing much more on the issue of chronic pain than they are currently. And that's what we hope people will do, that they'll not stop at this study, but take it as a starting point, try and replicate it, try and understand more about what the causes of this chronic pain are, and then how to treat it, which is not really a key focus of our paper.
OK. Alex Bryson, good to talk to you this morning. Thanks very much indeed. I'm a little bit surprised that it's only 3 months.
Yes, me too.
I thought it would have been longer than that.
But you've tried going to the doctor and saying you've got a bad back or you've got a pain in your leg or something. And honestly, I don't want to do down doctors, but so often they simply say, you know, take a couple of strong painkillers and come back if it still hurts.
Well, you sort of wonder what the alternatives are, medically what the alternatives are. Because it's things like, you know, the very strong cocodamol, naproxen, tramadol, all these sort of drugs which actually do make a big difference, but which you really don't want to be on long term.
No.
Because, I mean, there's some of them, tramadol's an opioid. And I think codeine's an opioid, isn't it? So they become, they're actually
And this is the problem in America, is that they are given
pills like mad, yeah.
Yes, but it may well be for that reason that they've got this sort of chronic pain. And the painkillers that they give you at the moment just cause further problems, frankly. They do work, though, don't they?
They do work.
And there's nothing worse than a chronic pain. I've been through backaches, and I don't just mean a bad back. I mean one that is there for a whole year and then for some reason goes away.
Yeah.
And it can really bring you down.
I'll tell you what, I did go to a pain clinic because I've had issues with my shoulders. It's all a diabetic thing with your joints. And they said, we'll give you acupuncture. Well.
Did it work?
No.
Oh, OK.
If you've had acupuncture and it's worked, I'd love to hear from you. I'll tell you what doesn't work. So acupuncture doesn't work for me. The other thing that doesn't work, and I've had years of it, physiotherapy.
Oh.
Never does a thing for me.
I think it would, wouldn't you? But chiropractic.
Oh, yes.
And I know doctors don't like you because they rubbish chiropractors.
Do they?
But I've got a chiropractor who is a miracle worker.
Oh.
Works on me.
Is that where they sort of you push on your spine?
No, there are different chiropractic practices. Some that sort of are a bit jerky and crack you or something. That's what they call it. But no, he comes from the there's a gentle school of chiropractic, and I don't know what he does, but the next day you feel like a truck's hit you.
Yeah.
And then the day after that you feel everything's gone. It's wonderful.
Well,
absolutely brilliant. I have to drive miles to go and see him in absolutely chronic pain. But driving away, I'm in chronic pain. But next day, truck hit you. Day after that, superb.
Oh. See, it's got to be
you
worth
have to
a try.
You have to try something to see if it suits you. But
yeah.
I've never actually really tried acupuncture.
Oh, well.
But some people absolutely swear
Some people swear by it. I think it works for some people and not others. But it didn't work for me. Covered in these needles. It's just like, what?
Your thoughts on chronic pain and how you have managed to maybe treat it. Love to hear.
Yeah, if it's worked for you.
Yeah.
gbviews@gbnews.uk. Don't go anywhere. We've got all the newspapers heading your way in just a couple of minutes.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online. across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, on Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today.
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun every Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News.
On Mark Dolan tonight, we have a simple plan, which is to inform, stimulate and entertain in equal measure. It's all about getting your opinions on the national television airwaves. I love my viewer emails, mark@gbnews.uk. So do join me every Friday, Saturday and Sunday for big guests, big opinions and a big presenter. 6'5", don't you know? See you then on GB News.
"6:31, morning to you, watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne."
It's interesting, we were talking a couple of moments ago about first aid and how the chair of the inquiry into the Manchester Arena bombing, one of the many things he said in a very scathing report, said that maybe members of the public should be better trained or should be trained at all in how to provide first aid, because if you're unlucky enough to ever be, up front to some terrible tragedy like the Manchester Arena bombing, would you know what to do? We've had some very interesting responses though, because John says, I did a 3-day St John's Ambulance first aid course, and I was very shocked at the end of the course where they offered me to get insurance in case someone's relative ever sued me for not giving the correct first aid. The government needs to look at this because at the end of the day, you're only trying to help.
Well, it's a bit like nurses are told never to wear their uniform out of hospital, aren't they? Because then they have a responsibility to do something and they can be sued and all the rest of it. Paul says, as an ex-British soldier, I'm trained in first aid, but everyone should learn CPR. Just trying is better than doing nothing.
And right. Andy says people have been sued for negligence in some European countries for wrongly helping. And I think this just puts people off helping at all for fear of being blamed if the patient doesn't survive.
Janice, though, says, I was in a cafe when I started choking on a piece of lettuce. I couldn't breathe. A man came over and performed the Heimlich manoeuvre and saved my life. I asked him where he learnt to do it, and he said he took a first aid course at work. He saved my life. Interestingly, the Heimlich manoeuvre, now you've seen how they do it. I don't quite know how you practice on anyone. But Dr. Heimlich only performed it once towards the end of quite close to the end of his life. It made all the papers at the time, about 10 years ago, and he finally... So he came up with it, but didn't actually perform it on someone until towards very close to the end of his life, yeah.
Nicola says, we were at a school in Africa with German nuns, and we had special lessons on how to deliver a baby. At home, we knew about snake bites and dressing wounds. It's good to learn some basics.
Yeah, I think it just gives you a chance.
Do you know any basics? Have you ever had to do it?
That suing business is worrying. We live in a very litigious society, don't we? If someone's just trying to help, they're trying to help. There you go. But anyway, let us know what you think. Time for the papers then this morning. The Times leads with the largest rise in interest rates for 3 decades yesterday.
And The Guardian covers the Manchester Arena inquiry, which found several victims died from survivable injuries.
The Mail goes with the Manchester Arena inquiry, which reveals several failings by the emergency services.
The Eye, though, leads with the Bank of England's prediction for Britain's longest ever recession.
The Express says stormy times ahead as the UK faces that recession.
And The Telegraph describes the Chancellor's plan to launch a capital gains raid.
The Mirror concentrates on the Manchester Arena bombing, focusing on the youngest victim, Safi. They say she fought but was let down.
And The Sun reports about HMS WAG, Wives and Girlfriends, set sail, it says, with a picture of the luxury liner which is going to be used by the Three Lions Wives and Girlfriends during the World Cup. Nice work, if you can get it, hey.
Let's go through the papers then with former Chief Secretary to the Treasury, David Mellor, and broadcaster Liz Kershaw. Morning, you two. And David, let's start with the Mail, should we, and the Manchester Arena bombings. I have to say, I find this very difficult because my niece was at that concert and was not injured, but actually, what was she at the time, about 14? Very traumatised by it all.
I find it heartrending, and I've shed more than a tear or two. 8-year-old girl, left to die. And some of these people were given awards, some of these emergency services. I mean, the Mail says, what on earth has happened to our 999 services? And when you look in the Times, for instance, they say there was only one paramedic in the city foyer, 2 more entered M15, more than 90 minutes after the explosion. Fire crews this is the Times, took more than 2 hours to even attend the incident after Andy Berry, a station manager, chose to mobilise resources 3 miles from the arena. And as for the police, I mean, the police are never going to be outdone when it comes to be sheer, mind-blowingly staggering incompetence. And Greater Manchester Police failed to declare a major incident for more than 2 hours.
I can't understand it, can you? I mean, even after this inquiry, and certainly when the chairman delivered his speech yesterday, he was scathing. What a scathing report. But you still can't understand how common sense didn't appear to prevail in so many cases.
Yes, and the Mail points out that a number of previous incidents, some of the same things happened and they hadn't been corrected. Now, I just think that, we're always ready to praise the emergency services, and no doubt there are occasions when they deserve praise. But this is, not just a scandal, it's a total, utter outrage, because people were left to lie on a floor, severely injured, when a couple of miles away there were trained individuals who were frightened for themselves and didn't go in. What is the point of being a worker in an emergency service if your principal concern when you're sent to an emergency, either you or the people who run you, are they safe? And I think this is one of those moments when, I wish we had some trivia, but this is a scandal.
What do you think, Liz?
I saw a claim on the television reports of this last night that, because we saw the pictures, there were loads of ambulances outside, but the crews were not going in. And that was on instructions from the top. And somebody said a paramedic wouldn't defy management. If they were told not to enter, they wouldn't. But whoever took those decisions, and it goes right to the top with the commander who didn't declare it an emergency, I think they should be jailed for life, because they are culpable of manslaughter, at least. And it's just an awful situation. I mean, even if I called an ambulance from a friend who collapsed in my kitchen and cracked her head on the floor and was unconscious. And I thought, at first I thought she was dead, and then there were signs of life, and we were calling an ambulance. And they said, oh, well, could you put her in the car and bring her here? And in the end, after an hour, we did, and then we passed the ambulance on the road, so we flagged them down, and then we did a transfer. It's just appalling. But the other thing that upset, I understand what David's saying about being upset, especially hearing about that child.
Oh.
But there was also a youngish man as well who could have been saved. And this isn't about me, but I'm just giving it as a personal experience. I saw a terrible accident nearly 20 years ago now on Edgware Road just near here. And a motorcyclist, somebody made an illegal turn across Edgware Road at speed in a BMW, knocked this motorcyclist off his bike. And it was horrific. He was rolled under the wheels. And then the driver sped off, and me and my brother were just happened to be there in a cab and leapt out and rang an ambulance. And what was horrible was the wait. 25 minutes watching this guy go grey and holding his hand and saying, keep away, trying to talk. And that's And this is like over an hour and a half.
I think the difference is, and I'm not trying to defend anything here, but I think because this was clearly a terrorist incident, and I think we've got to be careful about criticising people for not going in.
Oh, do you know what? I so disagree.
Because what would we do in those circumstances?
Go in.
Especially if you're a professional.
Go in.
Well, yeah, I just think unless you're in that position, if you're a first aider,
you look at 9/11.
Yeah.
Well, the 9/11, all of the people of rescue services went in.
Yeah, they did.
Most of them died.
Yes,
a lot of them died.
Their job.
But what's the point of having emergency services, first responders, as they're called, particularly in the United States, if health and safety means that those people aren't allowed to respond? It's ridiculous.
You never know when it's going to happen, but you have to try and pass the test when it does. I mean, I was when I was in the cabinet, a couple of mortar bombs, IRA mortar bombs, landed in the garden, exploded. And it was the most determined attempt anyone had ever made to shut me up, actually. But I tell you that nobody panicked, nobody thought of themselves, or one or two colleagues, some of the older colleagues, who were very shocked. And you just felt we stayed. There might have been another mortar bomb. We didn't think about that. We just wanted to get everybody out of the room in an orderly way. And I just think, these clowns 3 miles away, and I bet a lot of these people are still working.
Yeah.
They're alive, whereas, this poor little kid is dead.
Well, David, in your time in government, wasn't that when the King's Cross tube fire occurred?
Yes.
And look how the emergency services, not knowing, not having a clue what they were going to face, the absolute literal meltdown underground, they went in.
That's right.
And there was none of this. And they'd got due praise and saved many, many lives. Look at the 7/7 bomb.
Yeah.
When there were concurrent bus and tube explosions, and the emergency services going, and the public as well. The stories about people having their limbs blown off, and members of the public are taking off their belts and doing tourniquets and.
Well,
it's heroic.
Yeah, well, it is heroic, but, paramedics, it's not like being in the army. They don't sign up to put their lives at risk.
Well, they definitely...
Actually, do you know what, Stephen? I rarely disagree with you because you're such a sensible chap.
Yeah.
But I do disagree with you on this because I think if as a paramedic you are not really prepared to go in and help where you're needed, you shouldn't be there.
But I don't blame the guys in green who are actually sitting in the front seats of the ambulances.
It's the people who are giving the orders.
And it's back to your point about our litigious society. And they're so risk-averse and so paranoid about being culpable and taking responsibility. But they are to blame, and they should now face the consequence.
And by the way, this isn't the worst of it. He's got a chunky report to do. The worst of it was this blank wandering around with his huge backpack, and nobody went over and asked him what the hell he was doing.
All through
and a couple of the coppers who were supposed to be taken, man and a woman, he said, gone off and had supper together.
Yeah, and he wandered
these disgraceful little incidents shows.
He wandered all the way through.
We are let down.
By systems that should be better.
By systems should be better.
If they worked well, should be able to do the job.
Well, look at all the CCTV of him now progressing all the way from his train through Manchester Victoria Station, outside, and through the overpass into the MEN. There was one young lad who was being employed on probably minimum wage as a security guard.
And he was the one who
approached
did his
him,
best.
and he tipped me off, and they didn't do anything.
But I must say the papers. We often criticise the papers for trivialising the world, the rest of it. But, the reports here really hit the spot. And, the Times on the subject of the police, Debbie Ford, I imagine is still probably there doing whatever she's doing, Assistant Chief Constable and the Gold Commander, you see.
Yeah.
You don't have a sort of plastic commander, you're a Gold Commander in overall charge. This is what the chairman of the report said, quotes, made no effective contribution, unquote. Now, she should go to her grave thinking the day that she was tested, she failed the test.
Well, no, that's a fair point.
And also, I think what gets me down is, and that's why when the chairman delivered his speech yesterday, he said it is not enough. After 7/7, there were lessons that should have been learned. It's not enough to keep saying lessons will be learned.
No, they said
or
that again.
never again.
Yeah.
It just They've got to make sure they act on things.
And that's it. And that's where the Mail is interesting, because the problems that happened in Manchester, the Mail claims had happened at a couple of these previous awful incidents, and lessons had not been learned.
It's such a vacuous phrase. The commander of the fire services in Manchester started off his day with, you know, lessons should have been learned, but they weren't learned. Oh, it's just insulting.
It's a pat phrase to keep saying, isn't it? It's awful.
Let's have a look at the recession, Liz. In the front of the Times.
Don't worry, folks. Next segment, we're going to have Boy George.
Yeah, she's the
all my gossip about Boy George ahead of In the Jungle. Some light relief. Well, the recession is going to be the worst one. Why? Well, I think in a nutshell, we've been living on borrowed money and borrowed time forever, and the cost of things like furlough and all the billions that were stolen from the taxpayer by bogus claims for business grants, etc., which is absolutely no effort to recoup. Anyway,
it's probably more expensive to recoup than the money they've saved. This is the trouble with all this.
But anyway, we're now paying the price for that. I don't think it's anything to do with. Obviously, it's sent the markets into a flat for a while, but I don't think it's. Liz Truss hasn't created this debt. Her proposals were actually implemented in the end. This has been building up, and this so-called black hole in the finances. It was inevitable, and we would have had to pay it off. Now we're talking about recession when what we need is growth, but that's all being forgotten now. I just don't understand, and I've seen some great stuff from Liam Halligan on here, and there's a guest, an American economist with long blonde hair. Sorry, I don't remember her name. She talked a lot of Sanchez today, and I thought. Thank you, because I've been saying...
Laurie Laird.
Yeah, I've been saying...
She is.
I've been saying, I don't understand with my basics in economics, A-level and at university, so I have actually got some education in economics, but I don't understand this putting up the interest rates in this particular situation, and that's what she was saying. It's been the received wisdom that to bring down inflation, you put up interest rates. But she said yesterday, and I thought, thank you, these are particular circumstances where where inflation is not being demand-led. In other words, there isn't too much money chasing too few goods, therefore supply and demand, the prices go up or wages go up. This is because we've got a war that's causing rises in fuel and food.
What do you think?
I just really can't understand how they can sit there and say you're going to have to pay £500 a month more for your mortgage, but we're also, you know, at the same time as your food bills going up, the petrol pump prices are. They don't need to take money out of people's pockets because people are struggling anyway.
And once again, there's very good reporting. I mean, we're focusing on the Times. I mean, just one paragraph in the Times, the fourth paragraph on the front page, I mean, just gets it there. You get the information you need in a very short order. Britain is facing a 2-year recession as the downturn risks shrinking the economy by 3%. The bank said in forecast, based on interest rates climbing above 5%, unemployment is forecast to nearly double from 3.5% to 6.5%, and household disposable incomes will fall by an average of £800 next year. This is stark.
But as someone who was Chief Secretary to the Treasury, do you understand, do you agree with what the Bank of England's doing?
Well, I mean, I don't think the bank has played a wonderful game over the whole course of this, but I think what they're now doing is what they have to do. But you see, what depresses me, period when I was Chief Secretary, not due to particularly anything I did, the percentage of the national wealth consumed by the state was the lowest ever. We now go into this recession with, I mean, I think Boris has got to take the blame for a lot of that, but Sunak cannot escape a lot of this. Chucking money at helping people through the effects of the pandemic, when the history now shows an awful lot of them were just cheating. They were asking for money. And, of course, the cupboard is now bare when the real challenge to the public finances is happening. And that is depressing.
What was the alternative at the time?
Well, the alternative
people were crying out
was
for
to
money.
keep... Yeah, but I know. We're always all crying out for money. But the point is, it's to keep a sense of proportion. Look, 150,000 people, or what it was, died in this pandemic. But we always have to remember, sad though that is, that was out of 55, 60 million people. You know, when you look at the Black Death, now when we talk about a pandemic, you know, the Black Death, that was the real thing. Half the people who got the Black Death died. Here it was well under 1%. And the average age of the people who died in the pandemic was, what, 77 or 78? I mean, I don't want to make it sound as though I'm treating this lightly. But the amount of public money that was chucked away simply means when the moment comes that there's a real need to spend public money, there isn't any. There isn't any.
On that note, Liz, David, we need to leave it. Hopefully we'll get through more than 2 papers next time.
Yes, big subjects though, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Do you want some fun in the next hour?
Yes, we do.
I can do the Heimlich remover live on air on you if you'd like.
No, thank you.
Do the what?
No. Heimlich manoeuvre.
No, we'll pass on that one. Instead, we'll go through the headlines for you at 6:50. And Conservative MP Simon Fell is going to put forward proposals to allow prison governors to release those most at risk early. Campaigners say it would give those released time to reintegrate into the community rather than fall into the hands of criminal gangs.
Primary school children running drugs for gangs has become the norm, according to the former Children's Commissioner. In a report by the Commission on Young Lives, it warned of a crisis putting hundreds of thousands of children in England at risk of violence. And it said a combination of COVID and the cost of living crisis is actually making it easier for children to be exploited.
And Twitter will lay off more employees today after a week of uncertainty about the company's future. With Elon Musk taking over, he fired the chief executive, the top finance and legal executives as well. And he's looking to find $1 billion in annual company savings to put the company, as he puts it, on a healthy path.
And the First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, will face questions from Holyrood's Public Audit Committee over the procurement of 2 ferries, which are reportedly over budget and behind schedule. The 2 ships are now due for completion in 2023 and 2024 at a cost of 3 times the initial contract.
Now, you may well remember the critically acclaimed Canadian-American actor Brendan Fraser from films like George of the Jungle or perhaps the Mummy films in the late 90s. But what happened to him after that?
Well, 4 years ago, Fraser shockingly revealed he had been a male Me Too victim of Hollywood sexual abuse in 2003. He's now back with his first leading film role in the best part of a decade, which is called The Whale.
Well, let's talk to our very own Stephanie Tecci, who's here.
Good morning, Stephen and Anne.
I didn't know about this.
Neither did I. It's been very much kept under the radar like most of these stories. But the thing with Hollywood, there's always a point where a story or a scandal will come out. And now that it's been all eyes on Brendan Fraser for his superb role in The Whale, where he plays an obese man who's quite self-loathing and confined to a wheelchair. He's been tipped to be an Oscar runner. So with that, a lot of the interviews he's done in the past is coming up, and this is the one that's kind of being talked about at the moment, is his interview with GQ, where he says that he went to a lunch which was hosted by the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, and he was greeted by the president at the time, Philip Burke, and they shaked hands, but then Philip pinched his bum, and Philip said it was a joke, where Brendan recalls that actually it was far from a joke because he was quite graphic and he actually touched me quite intimately. He didn't want to put this story out there at the time because he says he didn't want to be, known for that narrative. But he did make a complaint to the association. They done investigation into it and said, yeah, how he was treated was inappropriately, but it was a joke. And it wasn't a joke for Brendan because he said that kind of made him a bit of a recluse from Hollywood because he felt like he wasn't taken seriously and he felt like something had been taken away from him. And there's this kind of blacklist thing in Hollywood. If you go against one of the most powerful executives,
they're the people who give out the Oscars, aren't they?
He said he wasn't invited to the events no more. The roles kind of dwindled in that sense. And, you know, even before this scandal, you know, viewers at home will remember him as the hunk and the, you know, the mummy and Georgia the Jungle. But he said that he felt like Disney made him feel like he was either supposed to be a sex idol or Mr. Universe. And I know we've been so used to hearing the female side of things, but I do feel like now we are going to hear the male side of things, and they should be taken seriously.
In the meantime, God, this has come out as he's releasing this new film, which, as you say, is, I mean, it's pretty dark, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very dark, but I think it's one of those ones where he's had his own challenges with his weight, and that's what this film is about as well. So I think hand in hand, he is mentioning, highlighting the mental health that can happen and the sexual abuse that men can face in Hollywood.
Well, it's good that everybody is able to talk about it now, because it's clearly been going on a long time.
Yeah.
The ultimate power, isn't it? I can make you a star if you keep quiet.
And that's the thing, guys. I always say it always looks glamorous in Hollywood, but behind it, it's quite seedy, it's quite toxic and
very political.
Yeah, and I think, you know, for Hollywood to be quite, you know, clean and, you know, an industry where people want to work, these stories need to come out and people need to be protected.
They do. Stephanie, thank you very much indeed.
See you in a bit later.
Yes, I'll be back.
Jolly good.
Casting couch. There you go. Look, coming up, more news on that interest rate rise and how it's going to affect you.
Hello, I'm Aidan McGibbon from the Met Office. It's a chilly start out there for many of us, the coldest morning for some time. Further showers continue through the morning and into the afternoon for some, but for many, sunny spells. Now, an area of low pressure, which has brought some lively showers overnight, is now clearing the far southeast. Once that's out of the way, we've got this ridge of high pressure, which has already brought clear skies and lighter winds to northern and western parts of the country, and that's why we've had that chill in the air first thing. But plenty of bright weather, and actually for many, it's a sunny afternoon. Temperatures in many places struggling after that cold start, but with the sunshine and light winds feeling pleasant enough. Now, there'll be some further showers into the northwest of Scotland, running through the Irish Sea into northwest England and North Wales. But away from those, and with the bright skies, feeling fine. 13 or 14 in the south, 10 or 11 in the north. Into the evening, there'll be further clear spells for a time, and as a result, temperatures fairly widely will fall away. But there'll also be further showers into the west, and then by the end of the night, cloud and a freshening breeze, as well as spells of rain, will move into the west of the UK, so Northern Ireland, West Wales and the southwest corner. That will lead to an uptick in temperatures by the end of the night, 9 Celsius in places, but a touch of frost is possible across central and eastern Scotland, eastern England as well. It's here where we'll see the brightest skies first thing, but really by about 9 or 10 in the morning, the outbreaks of rain in the west have pushed east. The rain will weaken as the day goes on. It will become lighter and more patchy. It will also clear Northern Ireland, western Scotland to sunny spells. 13 Celsius in Northern Ireland, 11 for Scotland, 13 or 14 across large parts of England and Wales, albeit with the strong breeze and those outbreaks of rain. The rain eventually clears southeastwards through Saturday night and into Sunday, could last for some time in the southeast on Sunday itself. Showers follow widely elsewhere.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
for helping our great nation
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
across England, Scotland,
Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV,
On radio,
and online.
We're proud to be
The People's Channel.
Britain's
news channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Every Saturday at 2 o'clock, join me, Darren Grimes, for Real Britain. I'm not afraid to give you a platform and say it how it is.
Come on, make the case. Something like this is very, very important to people.
And we're always up for a laugh on this show.
God, honestly, you'd think there were no problems in the world.
Real Britain, every Saturday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
Good morning, it's 7 o'clock on Friday the 4th of November. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Anne.
We're live across the whole of the UK on your TV and your radio, so wherever you are and whatever you're up to, take us with you today. These are your top stories.
The Bank of England has raised interest rates by 0.75%, bringing it up to 3%. This is the 8th rise since last December and the biggest one since 1989. Do stay with us to find out how this rate hike will affect your mortgage.
Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan is in hospital but said to be in a stable condition. He was injured in an assassination attempt, giving a speech at a rally in the Punjab province, wounding him and some of his supporters.
2 victims could have been saved and the emergency services fell below standard. As the damning report of the Manchester Arena bombing is released, we'll ask the former head of the National Counter-terrorism what lessons have been learned.
And the final landing. We're live at Doncaster Sheffield Airport as it prepares for its last flight before its controversial closure. It's a real shame, that.
It's a shame when it's some of the smaller airports are working best at the moment as well.
They are.
It's the wrong way to go, isn't it? Anyway, as ever, you can join in any of our discussions. Please do by emailing us gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Now, the Chancellor is set to launch a raid on capital gains as savers, landlords and entrepreneurs are set to lose out in the autumn statement.
Jeremy Hunt is attempting to plug that notorious £50 billion black hole in public finances, and higher taxes on capital gains and dividends could apparently raise nearly £16 billion of it.
Well, with the UK expecting to face its longest recession on record, lasting more than a year, the PM has warned there are no easy choices.
We keep being told that, don't we? Let's talk to business and finance commentator Michael Wilson. Hey, hello, good morning, Mike. Yes, this looks really gloomy. It's like they're releasing little bits of information here and there to warm us up for what is going to be a really horrible autumn statement. Do you think?
I think it is. I mean, good on you for concentrating on that tax on dividends, which I'll come to in a minute, because I think that probably is much more important than the news that we got yesterday from the Bank of England. Although that's not to say it's unimportant, but it still was very much expected. I think this new tax on dividends is a real killer. But let's just come to that. Let me deal with the Bank of England first of all. It looks like, and I've seen calculations this morning in some of the papers saying that the majority of households, or the average household, will be £800 a year worse off as a result of that. There is no particular good news about this. The recession will probably last until through 2023 until 2024. It'll be relatively mild, though. That's the only bit of good news about it. And it is likely that interest rates will not have to rise to 6%. Maybe 4.5% will be about enough. It was rather peculiar yesterday, actually, because I've been to many of these kind of press conferences, and the one thing that Andrew Bailey or the government, the Bank of England, they never actually speak plainly, but he did. And unfortunately, the markets just didn't believe him. There was a lot of muddle about it. Sterling lost out yesterday, as did the 10-year gilt. Again, this sounds very, very technical. It kind of is, but it's about government borrowing, and that one way or the other affects us all. So in other words, the markets didn't quite believe what he was saying. Now, tax on dividends and all the rest of it. That is really important. I think it's slightly more important than the big, the windfall taxes we're going to see on November the 17th. Undoubtedly, these are political decisions. Rightly or wrongly, they will probably happen. But the tax on dividends, I'll tell you why I don't like this, and this is something which the Chancellor and the Prime Minister will be pressing. They want the economy to grow and they want productivity to grow. The fact of the matter is that people running small businesses, directors of small businesses, and these could be people employing 2 or 3 other people, and these are the majority of businesses within the country, often don't award themselves a salary, but they get their money, they get their wages through dividends, which are now going to be taxed. And it is entirely likely that somebody who is actually being paid by the company is going to be better off after tax than the director who gets his dividends taxed. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. So my question would be, so where's the growth going to come from if you are attacking the smaller businesses? And you'll be hearing loads more about this, I'm sure, by November the 17th, because you will be talking to the Federation of Small Businesses, and all these people will start to rise up out of the woodwork once again and say, what about the backbone of the British economy? They are small businesses. They are.
What about CGT in all of this, capital gains tax? Because, again, that sounds very grim for savers. Is there an argument to say, well, look, you're also benefiting from the interest rate rises as well, so it balances out somewhat?
I think that all those sort of technicalities are nibbling away at the idea. I mean, the raid on tax limit will raise in the small billions, as it's put, and I suspect the same will happen with capital gains tax as well. It is a way of paying oneself. It is a way of having property to rent out to people, and all those kind of things. Which actually, if it moves, the government wants to tax it. Basically, that's how it's always been. The art is to pull out the feathers of the turkey without the turkey actually realising what's going on. I think there'll be a lot of fiddling round the edges, but the major thing that we can expect, I'm certain that taxes will go up. If you're asking me about November the 17th, I'm certain that there'll be this kind of thing called fiscal drag, whereas the thresholds don't go up, but people earn more and therefore dragged into paying either tax for the first time, more tax, or indeed tax at a higher rate. And of course, all these little nibbling around the edges. Now, taken apart, they probably don't mean an enormous amount to lots of people. Taken together, they certainly do. That's what the bad news will be on November the 17th.
And will it be bad news? Will the bad news be bad enough to spook the markets or just spook us?
No, I think we're back to what I think the markets quite like at the moment, because they're not very intelligent. What they rather like is dull and boring, and that's where we are right now. That's what's happening with the gilt market. But Anne, you do raise quite an important point again, and if I may just address this, many people who are now running the markets have not lived through the kind of path that the UK economy is taking at the moment, i.e. high interest rates in inverted commas. Not as high as you and I remember from our youth, as it were, but relatively high given that we've been on cheap money for 10 years. And they are learning how to deal with this new phenomenon. The older amongst us remember this quite happily, but the difficult thing, and I know you're going to hear about mortgages later on, the only good news about that is that people on fixed rates won't actually feel this for some time. But when they come off the fixed rates and have to renegotiate, they will have to pay more. There's no question about that. The relatively good news from yesterday is that the interest rates may not be quite as high as people feared in the first place. But a lot of muddled messages coming yesterday.
What bit of Andrew Bailey's comments did the markets not believe, do you think, Michael? I mean, is it when he was talking about interest rates dropping potentially quite sharply by the middle of next year?
Here's what I think is going on. He did actually say that inflation will remain relatively high, around about the 10% for the next 6 months, and it will certainly remain high through 2023. The problem is that it doesn't matter how good your information is, it's really difficult to predict where interest rates are going to go. And the markets, it suits them to think that they are going to remain high for some time. They might as well be contradictory because that's how they make their money.
OK, fair enough. Michael, thanks very much indeed. I mean, it is all a bit depressing.
It really is, isn't it?
And especially for again, you sort of think for savers, for the pensioners, all that, this is where it hits you again, isn't it? You make more money from your savings because the interest rates are higher. That's one plus side to everything that's going on. But then CGT and all the rest of it means if you're drawing down and making a profit on money that you've previously saved, then it's going to cost you even more.
And previously paid tax in order to save it.
Well, this is the problem. You pay compound
You've paid
tax.
tax
It's
once on
ridiculous.
it already. Yeah, I know.
Anyway.
It does seem very unfair. Thanks very much for all your comments, by the way, about rushing in to help if somebody needs your help from a first aid point of view. Because the chairman who released his report, or the beginnings of his report, into the Manchester Arena bombing inquiry, said that perhaps police officers need to be better trained in first aid. That would have helped, and various other things. But he also mentioned the fact that it would be useful for members of the public to know some basic first aid, because he said if you were ever unlucky enough to be confronted by somebody who badly, badly needs help, would you know what to do? It turns out to be quite a complicated business, doesn't it? Because Lee says, for instance, I would love to have some medical training to help anyone in a situation where it's needed. Not everyone can join St John's Ambulance, and they're not located in some areas, so we can't all rely on them.
No, Nell says, as an advanced medical first aider, I wouldn't come to anyone's aid unless a family member because of the suing culture.
But that's terrible, isn't it?
That is terrible.
Carol says, I was on a study tour of national parks in the USA in 1973. We were the first on the scene to witness what was a very serious accident. And being a first aider, my first reaction was to apply dressings and do what I could. When the emergency services arrived, they said it really was not advisable for me to have helped out at all because of insurance.
I mean, that's crackers, isn't it? We're also, David Mellor was being very critical of some of the frontline workers, really, in terms of what they did in Manchester or didn't do. Dave in Liverpool says, if the ambulance, paramedics and fire service had entered the Manchester Arena immediately after the initial explosion and a secondary device had been used, the emergency services would be again criticised for not waiting until checks for secondary devices have been carried out by the police, because that is a known tactic. It's a lose-lose situation for emergency services.
However, David says, do not join the emergency services if you are not prepared to risk to help. It's part of the job. And I must say, the idea of being safe rather than sorry, try telling that to the parents of little Safi there, who was killed, and who the inquiry reckons she could have been saved if help had got to her in time. She could be alive today.
Well, let us know what you think. gbviews@gbnews.uk. It's 12 minutes past 7. Let's bring you up to date with some of the other stories this morning.
Well, the number of people walking through the doors of Scottish stores was up last month, but is still below pre-pandemic levels. The Scottish Retail Consortium's figures show that footfall rose by 1.4% compared to the month before, but overall down 12% compared to the October month before lockdown.
Businesses are calling out for staff, with research showing job adverts for roles like childminders and dentists, of all things, have increased. The Recruitment and Employment Confederation says there were more than 150,000 new job posts in October, lower than a month before. It said there are signs of volatility driven by economic and political uncertainty.
And the government is to share £17.5 million around creative businesses in England to help expand the industry. 6 regions outside London will get just over £1 million each through the Create Growth programme. Businesses can also apply for a £7 million investment fund to expand their sector.
So you can have things like this nearby. Honest to goodness. Primary school children running drugs for gangs has become the norm, according to the former Children's Commissioner. In a report by the Commission on Young Lives, it warned of a crisis putting hundreds of thousands of children in England at risk of violence. It said a combination of COVID and the cost of living crisis make it easier for children to be exploited.
Did one of those headlines say that there were more dentists now being recruited?
So they need more dentists.
Oh, we know that. OK.
But it was childminders and dentists that we listed, which seems two ends of the spectrum.
needed.
Somehow.
Yeah, will it work?
There you go. But then they are spending £17.5 million on those art projects.
Yeah, you didn't like the sound of that.
No,
I mean, I know art is important, but maybe not at the moment.
Not at the minute. Not at the minute. People dancing about with drums in front of a light show.
Well, I don't think you need £17.5 million to do that either.
I mean, honestly, maybe I'm a Philistine when it comes to these things. I just sort of think, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, really, it's very nice. I mean, look at what's that all about? I wouldn't give that government money.
It's great, but oh, that's the Van Gogh thing, isn't it?
Is it? I have no idea what that is. It
Monet
looks
or something.
ridiculous.
Yeah. I love art and I love art projects, but do you really need to spend that much money on them at the moment?
No.
I mean, if there are people who love art and dance and all of those creative art type things, who would do it for next to nothing?
I just think
because they do it for the love of it.
I mean, honest to goodness, I wouldn't pay to see it. Never mind spend me tax money on it.
Very odd, that one.
Anyway, let us know what you think. As always, you know how. Drop us an email.
Yeah, gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Now, 2 of the victims killed at the Ariana Grande concert in Manchester in 2017 could have been saved, according to that damning report released yesterday.
Yeah, Safi Rose Roussos, she was 8, and John Atkinson, 28. They were fatally wounded following the attack by the suicide bomber, Salman Abedi. And the report found a series of emergency services failings ultimately led to both their deaths. In other words, they could have been saved.
Well, former head of the National Counter-terrorism Security Office, Chris Phillips, is here in the studio. Good to see you, as always.
Morning.
I mean, it is rare that we get a report, I mean, particularly about emergency service responses, which are as damning as this. What did you make of it?
Well, quite accurate. And everything went wrong. Everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. But there does need to be some balance here, I think. And what you had actually was a logjam in the system. You know, there were plans in place. The police knew, and the emergency services knew what they should have to do. But if you then put a stopping point in it, where no one has declared the area safe, then you wouldn't necessarily send people into something that is not safe. So I'll give you an example. The Bataclan in Paris, if they'd sent the paramedics and the fire brigade in to rescue people there, they would have all been killed. They would have all been killed by people with machine guns. So what happened was really bad, and it's inexcusable, but it does come down to not necessarily the system being wrong, but use of the system.
Somebody's judgment, really.
Or lack of making decisions.
We saw it in one of the school shootings in America, didn't we? Where and it was on video. The police, there were children suffering, terrified, needed to be got out, and the policemen were just hanging back.
Yeah. And it is a difficult call to send people into a very dangerous situation. But of course, that's what emergency services do, and then that's their job. But there is an offside to that to say, well, you don't want to send people in just to be killed. But don't get me wrong, this was a complete disaster from everyone, actually, right through from the arena itself, right through the security teams and the emergency services. None of them come out well in any of these.
And yet,
I was going to say we've got to be careful with hindsight, though, don't we? But I mean, Liz Kershaw was saying earlier on, we've got all this footage of the bomber, walking through Victoria Station and all the. But, he's a man with a backpack. At what point do you... It's easy now to say, well, there's the bomber.
Of course.
At what point does somebody like that raise suspicion?
Yeah, and I think this is the piece. And I think that one of the big areas here for everyone, businesses and emergency services, is complacency. Listen, at that time, there was a wave of terrorism happening across Europe. It wasn't, just the odd one. There were a series of terrorist attacks. And there were people that thought this man was suspicious, and not enough was done about that. And that's one of the areas that really we need to work on. And that's for the public to make sure that they are aware of people who are acting suspiciously, look out of place, and then for them to report that, and then something physically actually happens as a result of that.
Yeah, I mean, after the 7/7 bomb attacks in London, they said lessons will be learned, and the chairman of this inquiry in Manchester said yesterday lessons weren't learned. It's a phrase that is just patted out, isn't it? Lessons will be learned, mistakes won't be made again, and yet they are.
Well, lessons were learned in as much as there was a system in place, and actually in Manchester, 12 months before this actual terrorist attack, there was a practice incident. You may remember that they used the phrase Allahu Akbar and everyone was up in arms about it. So the GMP, the Manchester police, actually practiced for a terrorist attack of this very nature. So lessons were learned, the system was in place, but then if someone doesn't make the right decision, then those plans go awry, and that's, I think, what's happened here.
Is this down to, I mean, one of the people criticised was the gold commander in all of this. It wasn't declared, what's the right term, a critical incident, whatever it is, until several hours later.
Terrible.
When it was all, I mean, we were reporting it at that stage.
Yes.
Why do you think decisions like that weren't made? I mean, that seems just fundamentally crazy.
Yeah, well, how an individual reacts on the day when, something big happens is crucial. The difficulty is it shouldn't be one person making that decision. Someone needs to be overseeing that, and we can all miss things.
Yeah. But they're trained in it.
They are trained, and I've been a gold, silver and bronze commander. And, of course, you can make mistakes, but your mistake shouldn't then cause so much grief and tragedy as this one did. I think we do have to be careful because, as I say, the plans were in place. The police generally knew what they should be doing. The firearms teams went in quickly. But I think the key to this was when they found that the area where the casualties were safe and didn't have any more bombs or didn't have any more people with guns, then that was the point that it should have been called and the paramedics and people called in. That didn't happen. And as a result, we've seen the results, and we talked about the results all day.
I mean, it does make you wonder, yes, this report is very harsh on all sorts of people, but it does make you wonder whether you can ever do quite the right thing, I suppose, at the time.
Yeah, and it's...
we train for things, and as you say, you have practices, but it's never quite the same as the day when unpredictability takes over.
Sod's law, people make the bad mistake. You're having a bad day, you make the wrong decision. It's, it's such a tragedy, and... everyone involved would be absolutely steaming that they couldn't do more to help, but things just didn't work properly, and that's what needs to be. I think the thing that needs to be done is actually where decisions are made, then there needs to be someone overseeing that decision as well to confirm.
Can I just ask, is there any point in this, as someone who's been Gold Command and all the rest of it, is there any point in, as we naturally want to do, is really pointing fingers at someone and saying, you failed, you should be prosecuted for manslaughter? Does that achieve anything, actually?
Well, I suppose vengeance to some people is a big thing. No one went to work that day to make mistakes, but clearly mistakes were made. Will it make a difference? Well, it possibly makes other people in that role less likely to make the hard decisions. When you take on a role of silver commander, gold commander, whatever it is, you have to be prepared to make decisions, and some of those decisions will be right. Some of them, in hindsight, will be wrong. And, we're now, how many years down the line, examining in minute detail a decision that was made, in a matter of minutes under extreme pressure. And that's a difficult thing for anyone to do. The military have to go through this all the time. Sending people into battle, mistakes are made, people die. And in that instance, police officers had to make difficult decisions and will have got some of them wrong.
But in this case, according to this report, the gold commander there contributed nothing.
Yeah, and
that's a pretty damning phrase when you've got a responsible job.
Yeah, interestingly, the gold commander actually doesn't really make too many decisions on the day. It's the silver, the operational commander, that should be making the decisions with the bronzes as well.
You wouldn't want to be called a gold commander who contributed nothing.
No, you wouldn't. And, this is things that will last with these people for the rest of their lives. And, they will be completely cut up about it, I'm sure. But...
Not much help to Safi's parents.
Not much help to any of the victims. But let's get back to the point here is the person that loaded that backpack, that walked into that area, was the person responsible for the deaths of these people. Not the police officers, the fire or the ambulance, who perhaps didn't do as well as they should have done on the day.
OK. Chris, good to talk to you. Thank you.
It's a really difficult one, isn't it? I wonder what you think. GBViews at gbnews.uk. Have you ever been in a situation where you've had to be a first responder? Were you up to the job? Did you have any training, or did you just follow common sense? Or, like so many of the people getting in touch, did you hang back because you were scared of being sued if you did the wrong thing? What sort of a society do we live in?
I don't know. I hate talking about it because, as I said, my niece was there, and my brother and sister-in-law were, when she'd gone off to the concert, were waiting in the car park, you know, for her to come out of the concert and then take her home again. And it all, I mean, you can imagine, I mean, I was on air at the time, and then got a phone call from my brother saying, well, you know, we've no idea what's happening. It's awful, 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 awful. Anyway.
Get in touch if you've got a view, please. GBViews at gbnews.uk.
Chills. Look, we're going to cheer you up in a couple of minutes, hopefully, because Aidan McGee has got all the sport for you. Don't go anywhere.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
for helping our great nation
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
On TV,
On radio.
And online.
We're proud to be
The People's Channel, Britain's
News channel.
hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News. Hello, I'm Alastair Stewart, and I'd invite you to join me at noon on Saturdays and Sundays for Alastair Stewart and Friends. I've been in this business for over 40 years. Now, here at GB News, I've never been happier. I get to choose the big stories that really interest me. We hear what you have to say, and you hear what I have to say. I really hope you can join me, noon on Saturdays and Sundays.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Good morning. Morning, this is Breakfast with Steve and Anne. If you came back a second, we were just sat here holding hands.
We were holding each other's hands, yeah, just to see how cold our hands
Mine are colder than yours today.
I don't. Yeah, they are. Yeah. We're sitting here under the most aggressive form of air conditioning, to say, and it's freezing.
Remember the good old days when they used to have proper studio lights and studios were red hot?
That's right, yeah.
It's all LEDs now, you don't feel the heat. Ooh. Anyway, let's talk to Aidan McGee, who's got all the biggest sports stories for us this morning. Morning.
Morning. I was to say cold hands, warm heart.
Yes, that's what they say.
Well, they have to say that. That's just a way of comforting you for having
I'm not
cold
sure
hands.
it's improved under any scientific microscope.
I don't think so, no. Can we talk about fans who are paid to be spies at the World Cup?
It's funny, we heard about this about 4 or 5 days ago, the Dutch fans. And so England fans were saying, the Dutch fans have been bought off. Well, it appears that England have gone down the same route, or a certain number of them anyway. 40 fans have apparently been paid, according to the back of the Times today, Matt Lawton's story, a good friend of mine, paid by Qatar to attend the World Cup. Now, these guys probably would have been going already, but they're getting everything paid for now. So they've got to sign up to a code of conduct laid down by the local organising committee. They had to deliver positive messages about their experiences, so posting on social media regularly. They've got to sing certain songs when requested and report.
Qatar,
They've also had to report any critical social media reports. So I don't know where that lands. You mean, what do you? They say there's something they've seen on social media they don't like. What happens then? What do the Qatar local organising committee do with that information?
I don't like
arrest
this.
people.
They've targeted the fans that tend to be most visible at tournaments. Now, Wales is an interesting one because they haven't been at a World Cup for 64 years, so I'm not sure how visible they will be. However, or they have been in the past. However, they've probably taken a calculation and said, well, look, they're going to turn up with lots of colours, lots of noise, and they're going to be at the opening ceremony. So I think their worry is, from a PR perspective, that the opening ceremony will fall flat, and they want to make sure that the sections of fans who are in the stadia and who have effectively been bought off will make noise and make it into an event. I've never known a World Cup be characterised by so much negativity so close to the tournament. Yes, in South Africa, we were talking about security issues maybe a year, 6 months out from the start of the tournament. In Brazil in 2014, we were talking about whether the stadia would be ready. No problems like that in Qatar because everything was done 1 year ago. It was all finished. All the infrastructure stuff is done. But such negativity now. Nobody's talking about the football. Even when we are talking about the football, we're talking about injuries. Timo Werner, the Germany striker, a minor injury yesterday. He's out of the World Cup because the tournament starts so close to when the season is suspended. Even minor injuries, niggles, are causing players to win the world miss out on the World Cup. So we're talking about football in the context of injuries. When we're talking about Qatar, we heard about the Dutch fans last week, 40 of those as well. I mean, let's see what else they have to do.
So they're getting free flights, free accommodation,
£60
a day
loaded onto their card. They have to sign up to a code of conduct. This is.
They have to sit in groups and sing at the appropriate times for the television camera.
But what's interesting is that it's a quite prominent England fan, John Hemmingham, who's the guy who beats the drum. He's well known. We should say that the Times contacted him for comment and he wasn't available yesterday, but he has been turning up to meetings recently with the FA about the forthcoming tournament and been talking apropos of nothing about how great it's going to be and what a positive experience his recent trip to Qatar was. But we'll wait and see if he responds later today. We hope he will. But yeah, it's been described by fan groups as sinister and distasteful marketing.
Doesn't smell right.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't. I mean, I wonder how many, if it's just going to be 40 fans from a select group of nations.
They make sure they're the ones who are interviewed on the telly.
Yes.
And things like that. And if they know where to go, they can be giving out...
It's a bit late for all this, isn't it? I mean, the tournament was awarded 12 years ago. I don't think they're changing the narrative on Qatar. They've just got to hope that the football is good. Because if the football is good, everything else will be forgotten. We've seen that at previous tournaments, not just in football, but also in the Olympics and things like that.
Yeah. Talking of things being good...
On the pitch?
Yeah, on the pitch. On the pitch. Good for Man United.
Well, it was good in the sense that they won.
Well,
but,
yeah. What more do you want?
Well, they had to win by 2 goals. And they only won by 1, which means they have to drop into the knockout phases where you've got to play the likes of Barcelona and Juventus now. So that's going to be difficult for them. It's extra games in February, the knockout games. However, it's not a bad result in terms of what English clubs have done in Europe this week. I mean, that's Man United won last night. Yes, it wasn't quite enough, but Arsenal won, West Ham won. We saw Chelsea winning in the week. We saw Liverpool as well. The only letdown, I suppose, from a British perspective was Glasgow Rangers. But yeah, decent week. We saw West Ham win against a side in FCSB in Romania. 6 games in a row they've won there. You'd have to wonder with this tournament, it's almost like the third level competition in Europe. You know, there's some poor sides in there, has to be said, Stephen. And you wonder whether the British clubs are getting much out of this by travelling all around Europe in the middle of the week and playing sides that would be lucky to get into Sunday League level are over here.
Oh,
controversial.
I love,
no,
I love that Mikel Arteta from Arsenal says,
yeah,
winning helps winning.
Well, yeah, it does,
That's
because, I mean...
isn't it?
Well, he played
like
it...
money breeds money, isn't it?
Yeah, but, which I think is probably true. But he's been naming quite strong players in these events, and... You know, there wasn't really a necessity to, because Arsenal were fairly strong already in that group. But Chelsea had criticism earlier in the week when they played a dead rubber Champions League tie. They involved Ben Chilwell, and he looks as if he's injured now. So a lot of people are saying, well, did he really need to play in that game? There wasn't much riding off it. But I suppose if you're the club and you're paying their wages, you use your staff at your disposal, same as any other business.
Yeah, quite right too, I guess. Adrian, thank you very much.
I'm back with you later, I believe.
Are you?
We're talking about jewellery, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, right, excellent.
I don't wear much. But...
No, you don't wear much.
No,
just a watch.
Oh, there you go. You're not going to have much to contribute then.
Well,
I will. I'll find
I bet
something.
you buy it for Christmas, though, don't you?
Yeah, not this year, it won't be, but other years maybe.
Yeah. Cheap Christmas this year.
Yeah.
We're doing
that's
a
the
cheap
point.
Christmas.
We're doing a cheap Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, what are you doing? How are you cutting back?
We've just family have all just said, oh, I might be breaking this news to some of my relatives this morning. But just...
Secret Santa?
My mother told me this year...
Santa.
No, not doing Secret Santa, but just token gifts this year.
It was really difficult. We did that a few years ago when we did Christmas in Australia, and we decided, because it cost such a lot of fortune to get there in the first place, we thought, right, we'll do a very cheap Christmas. Everything... You can't buy anyone anything less than...
Or over.
$10. Yeah, nothing more than $10.
Right.
And it's quite a challenge.
Yeah.
A lot of people got socks.
£4, isn't it?
Yeah.
So just $10.
Got socks and things like that. But there were quite a few novel ones as well. Yeah. So actually, if you set yourself a sort of challenge like that, it could be quite good fun. We're going to be talking about the fact that November is the month for Christmas craft shows. Just starting, they roll right through November. There's a huge one going on at the NEC in Birmingham right now.
It's usually when it Chatsworth House as well,
yeah,
in Derbyshire.
Yes, but you go to craft shows and you can get unique things for a start. You're supporting sort of your local craftspeople, and you can get some really good gifts, really very good prices.
Oh, well, there you go.
So we'll be talking about that a bit
That's
later.
what I like the sound of. Good
chestnuts as well you can get. Usually,
Right.
you can get hot chestnuts as well.
Well, they're no good as a Christmas gift, What are you on about?
You put them in a soup.
Anyway, look, don't go anywhere. We've got the papers in a couple of minutes.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
On Mark Dolan tonight, we have a simple plan, which is to inform, stimulate and entertain in equal measure. It's all about getting your opinions on the national television airwaves. I love my viewer emails, mark@gbnews.uk. So do join me every Friday, Saturday and Sunday for big guests, big opinions and a big presenter. 6'5", don't you know? See you then on GB News.
Join me, Arlene Foster, for the Briefing on GB News. Every Friday at 3 p.m, I'll give you all the latest political news and analysis, and we'll have robust live debate. To make sure that you're caught up on all of the biggest issues of the day, we'll bring on experts in their field. I'll ask the questions that you'd like to ask. We're not afraid to tackle discussions from all perspectives, including yours. Don't forget, the Briefing with me, Arlene Foster, every Friday at 3 p.m. on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
7:40 morning to you, watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
You are indeed.
Yes, good morning.
Let's take a look at today's front pages. The Times leads with the largest rise in interest rates for 3 decades.
The Guardian has a Manchester Arena inquiry which found several victims died from survivable injuries.
And the Mail also goes with that, the Manchester Arena inquiry, revealing several failings by the emergency services.
The Eye goes back to the Bank of England and their prediction for Britain's longest ever recession.
And the Express says there are stormy times ahead as the UK faces the longest recession.
Let's go through some of those then, and hopefully to cheer us up a little bit this morning, former Chief Secretary to the Treasury, David Mellor, and broadcaster Liz Kershaw. Good morning, both. That's your task this hour.
Well, I did just grit you, didn't I? And
you did just do a Heimlich manoeuvre.
And my glasses shot off.
Nothing came out of my mouth but your glasses. I think you did it wrong. Liz, let's have a look at the Mail, should we? And actually a cap on social care.
Yes, this has been an ongoing saga, hasn't it? I mean, it was partly the downfall of Theresa May in her short stint as Prime Minister. I've got a young friend, well, she's a friend of my son's, who works in a care home, has done all the way through COVID. 23 people died on her. She's paid about 10 quid an hour. Terrible skin throughout COVID because wearing a plastic mask all day. She told me the other day that the people in her care home charged £1,000 a week. £1,000 a week. Where'd you get that money from? Well, you need to sell your home. Now, the NHS is supposed to be cradle to grave, so there's a whole issue around this as to why, because you reach a certain age, you start having to pay for what you've paid into all your life. But that's the bigger issue. But this cap was introduced notionally so that you'd only have to spend a certain amount of your own funds on care. I can't remember the exact figure, and it's not in this article. And after that, then the state would step in. But now that's to be shelved, apparently, as part of the government's autumn budget. Let's be real.
So you'd have to spend all of your money?
You'd just spend and spend until every penny had gone. So you might say, OK, well, you're sitting on a £500,000 house, which will, when you die, will go to your family and make them all better off. So why should the state not pay? People don't say that. If you're 55 even and you have to have a serious heart operation, they don't say, well, your house is worth £500,000, so, you know, get your chequebook out.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. Anyway, it's one of the things that's going to be scrapped. And I just find this disgusting, that elderly people... I'm not part of it anymore, my mum died, but I witnessed it at the time. What a shambles. elderly people being put through all this when there are so many other ways that our money's being wasted, and we'll come on to that.
Yeah.
But
People
said to me-
heartbreak. It is absolutely heartbreaking.
I mean, is there any point? And is there any point in going, oh, you know, I mustn't smoke, I mustn't drink alcohol, I must have a healthy diet, I must exercise, I must make
save
sure...
money.
I must make... No, I must make sure I stay alive till I'm 80. And as my brother said, stuff that. He said, I'm not going to end up sitting in an armchair, dribbling into my own chest, being neglected in a care home.
Anyway.
Well, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and you don't have to pay
I
for
regularly
it.
sit in my armchair having a dribble.
Yeah, well, I want to live as long as I possibly can. I tell you that for nothing.
Well, we all do.
David, let's have a look at the Mail, should we, and the football.
Yes. I mean, if we want to laugh, it should be the World Cup. I mean, ridiculous, ridiculous, ridiculous. They're holding it in Qatar. That's absurd. They're holding it in the middle of the season, and then they're telling the clubs that pay these players wages, we shouldn't be playing them because they might get injured before the World Cup. So anyway, the Mail, FIFA asked players to just talk about football in Qatar. See, it's the lack of any moral imperative in football. And so the head of FIFA, Gianni Infantino, sounds like a character out of The Godfather, maybe he is,
On star.
pleading with them to stick to talking about football once the tournament has kicked off. But however, when you go further into the Mail, you've got Martin Samuel, their chief sports writer, very good writer, blame FIFA's cabal of crooks for injury chaos that cheapens the World Cup. I mean, the World Cup should be something you play at the end of a season. The World Cup should be something that doesn't interrupt. You see, because I'm a sad person, but, you know, I don't really care much about what happens to England. I probably won't watch a second of the World Cup, but I do care, this is the sadness of my life, what happens to Chelsea. And so as far as I'm concerned, England kidnapping some of our players and injuring them, it doesn't work for me. I'm a club football man, and I'm sure there are lots of people who are like that. And so we're off in November, this month indeed, to the World Cup, and only because money was a lot of these dreadful old men on FIFA, the cabal of crooks, as Martin Samuel called them, they were bribed.
Yes.
They were paid money to put the World Cup. Now that's bad.
Now Qatar's paying fans to say nice things about they're being bribed as well, aren't
you
they?
know, and someone like David Beckham's getting paid millions to promote Qatar. But the point is, when they knew, and to be fair, some members of FIFA were either thrown out or sent to prison. Why do they still continue with it?
You do wonder. Look, we're almost out of time.
Oh.
So, but let's talk Boy George. You promised us a bit of Boy George.
OK,
news
well,
in the
can we do the other issue after then? Well, next time.
Well, maybe.
Next time, requisitioning private homes for migrants. I've had letters and phone calls from the council. Anyway, yeah, on a lighter note, Boy George, I absolutely love Boy George.
Do you?
Yeah, I've known him for years. He's so cheeky and funny. And I did a show about legends on the BBC for the last 12 months. So 50, you know, one a week, and he's just the best.
Is he on I'm a Celebrity?
He's going into the jungle.
I cannot have this. I'm a Celebrity is about Matt Hancock. Anything that distracts attention from Hancock eating kangaroo testicles, preferably uncooked, that's not allowed.
Forget anything asked in the House of him in Parliament. Whatever happened to Matt Hancock, no matter how humiliating, wait till he has to sit on a log by the fire with Boy George. Boy George will rip him to shreds. He's so witty and sharp and bitchy and funny.
But he's not going to be a diva.
Well, he will win. I'm saying it now publicly.
He can't help but be a diva.
Do you what? He's not a diva.
No, I mean that in the nicest way. I too love Georgie. I think he's a lovely guy. But he'll do the diva thing. Of course he will.
I wonder if he'll
perform, won't he?
Yeah, I'm wondering whether he'll have
That's what they're paying him all that money
full
for.
makeup every day and, you know, hat and hair on, whether he'll show his raw self. I doubt it.
But Matt Hancock isn't going to have to do these bush tucker trials,
Will
is he?
Matt
He's being
Hancock
let off.
show his raw self?
Why hasn't Matt Hancock got to eat kangaroo things?
He hasn't got to do the bush tucker trials because he has a medical condition.
Oh, does it?
What,
Yeah,
he's
coward.
allergic to kangaroo testicles.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say I'm allergic to kangaroo testicles.
How does he know? That's the main thing.
Well, apparently that's what they're saying.
Right.
Because he goes round eating them with the kangaroos still attached.
Anyway, do you want to bet?
No, I don't do betting.
Oh.
No.
Yeah, I agree. George needs to win. George will win.
He'll win it. Walk it.
I mean, I like.
No, I want Matt to stay in for as long as possible.
Yes.
Oh,
And
yeah.
do you know what? I might even watch this wretched programme, which I've never, ever
No,
watched.
I've never seen
I've
it.
never seen
But
it.
I think I might make an exception for this. I'm not going to watch the World Cup, but I might watch Matt in the jungle. Except it's not a jungle, of course. It's a pond down the bottom of the hotel they stay in Australia.
Yeah.
But never.
Is that all it is?
Full of creepy
Yes, that's all it is. And they import the creepy crawlies. We've got some on this programme we could send them.
Oh,
Thanks.
You're really going to enjoy this.
I can't for the life of me understand why he's agreed to do it. I cannot.
Who, Matt Hancock?
Matt Hancock.
350 quid.
Quid?
Oh, 350,000.
Oh, sorry, 350,000 quid.
Is that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I do.
Forgive me, it's age.
I think he might have a notion that his political career's in tatters.
Yeah, well, this isn't a word.
Why
to
would he
salvage
think
it.
that? How could he possibly think that?
Funny that, isn't it? Look, Liz, David, we've got to leave it there. Good to see you this morning. Thank you very much.
But we're coming back.
Well, you are coming
You
back.
are coming back
eventually.
because you've got
It'd be
more
nice.
to do, more work to
He's
do.
telling us what we need to know that they don't want us in.
No, you're done. Interestingly, Joy's been in touch this morning. Morning to you, Joy. She says, today is a dark day for my birth town. The closure of our jewel in our town's crown, this is Doncaster Sheffield Airport, is heartbreaking. Please do the right thing and give our city its airport back. Well, it is the final day. The last flight is going to touch down at Doncaster Sheffield this evening as its owner presses ahead with that very controversial plan to shut it down.
Yeah, the Peel Group said it is shutting the airport, which employs about 800 people, due to a fundamental lack of financial viability. In other words, they ain't got enough money to keep it going. And it's begun winding down operations this week.
Well, let's talk to our Yorkshire and Humber reporter, Anna Riley, who's there for us this morning. I mean, this is an incredibly sad day, Anna.
It really is, yes. It's South Yorkshire's only airport. 800 people are employed here, but it affects up to 2,700 jobs if this airport was to close. And I'm joined this morning by Mark Chadwick. He runs the Facebook group Save Doncaster Sheffield Airport. It's got over 15,000 members. And Mark, you've been working tirelessly, haven't you, to keep this airport open. What is the latest?
Well, it has been a busy job, yeah. At the minute, it was released last night. There's apparently two companies that have made offers to Peel. There's a press release the other day. Peel say they've not got any credible offers. Everybody else is saying differently. It's a game, isn't it? I think it's a game. It's frustrating for everybody. You know, they need to open them, tell people exactly what's happening, not changing things all the time like they keep doing. It's frustrating people, it's upsetting people, all the people that work here, and they just don't know where they stand.
Yeah, what have people been saying in that group? Because there's passengers in there, there's people that work there. What has been the sense?
There's a lot of frustration. I'll be honest, a lot of anger, a lot of upset people. People just don't know where they stand. It's quite simple. I think Peel are basically using it as a bargaining technique to get a better deal, or are they just playing the game and just waiting until the last minute and just saying no, there's no credible buyers? We just don't know.
And what have people in that group said to you then? What have they been saying about the closure and how that's made them feel?
Well, we've got people that obviously go on holiday from here. Well, that's not the big picture, really. The big picture is the staff, the jobs that could be lost from suppliers to the airport and what have you. People are complaining that all the infrastructure's gone in and it's just wasted money, but it's not, because now the owners can use that infrastructure for their development if they ever get one. But the local authorities have said that there'll be no building on here. No planning consent will be allowed.
And the last flight is coming in from Egypt, scheduled to land at 9:15 this evening. What would it mean if you know, all these last-ditch efforts don't work and this airport was to shut?
I mean, at the minute, yeah, it's probably going to close. I can't see it staying open tonight. I can't see there being a last-minute attempt to keep it open. But the people are still working at it. The authorities are still at it. People just need to, you know, they're not going to get anywhere with the property. They just need to listen to the public. There's 127,000 signatures have gone in, asking government for help. There's 15,700 members on the group. There's 800 staff, and people just need to listen to them, because public outcry is really high at the minute. People are really upset with them. They're not going to get anywhere. People are going to try and stop Peel getting any development anywhere in South Yorkshire.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for speaking this morning. So, a lot of public outcry. We're hearing that this airport is set to close with that last flight landing tonight.
OK. Anna, thanks very much indeed. Well, let's hope some buyers do actually come forward, because I love a local airport like that.
You have to try laughing to get over your depression, because Susan's got in touch. Morning, Susan. She says, I am a laughter yoga coach.
Oh.
And it's an alternative way to divert your pain and thoughts. Laughter is the best medicine, combined with yoga breathing techniques. Magic.
We shall try that and let you know how we get on when we're back after the weather. Ha 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 ha!
Hello, I'm Aidan McGibbon from the Met Office. It's a chilly start out there for many of us, the coldest morning for some time. Further showers continue through the morning and into the afternoon for some, but for many, sunny spells. Now, an area of low pressure which has brought some lively showers overnight is now clearing the far southeast. Once that's out of the way, we've got this ridge of high pressure which has already brought clear skies and lighter winds to northern and western parts of the country, and that's why we've had that chill in the air first thing. But plenty of bright weather, and actually for many, it's a sunny afternoon. Temperatures in many places struggling after that cold start, but with the sunshine and light winds feeling pleasant enough. Now, there'll be some further showers into the northwest of Scotland, running through the Irish Sea into northwest England and North Wales. But away from those, and with the bright skies, feeling fine. 13 or 14 in the south, 10 or 11 in the north. Into the evening, there'll be further clear spells for a time, and as a result, temperatures fairly widely will fall away, but there'll also be further showers into the west, and then by the end of the night, cloud and a freshening breeze as well as spells of rain will move into the west of the UK, so Northern Ireland, West Wales and the southwest corner. That will lead to an uptick in temperatures by the end of the night, 9 Celsius in places, but a touch of frost is possible across central and eastern Scotland, eastern England as well. It's here where we'll see the brightest skies first thing, but really by about 9 or 10 in the morning, the outbreaks of rain in the west have pushed east. The rain will weaken as the day goes on. It will become lighter and more patchy. It will also clear Northern Ireland, Western Scotland to sunny spells. 13 Celsius in Northern Ireland, 11 for Scotland, 13 or 14 across large parts of England and Wales, albeit with the strong breeze and those outbreaks of rain. The rain eventually clears southeastwards through Saturday night and into Sunday, could last for some time in the southeast on Sunday itself. Showers follow widely elsewhere.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue,
on Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today.
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun every Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Every Saturday at 2 o'clock, join me, Darren Grimes, for Real Britain. I'm not afraid to give you a platform and say it how it is.
Come on, make the case. Something like this is very, very important to people.
And we're always up for a laugh on this show.
God, honestly, you'd think there were no problems in the world.
Real Britain, every Saturday on GB News.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
For helping our great nation
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
On TV.
On radio.
And online.
We're proud to be
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Good morning to you. It's 8 o'clock. It's Friday, the 4th of November, and this is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Anne.
And we're live across the whole of the UK on both your TV and your radio. Wherever you are, you can take us with you. Here are the top stories for you this morning.
Well, the Bank of England has raised interest rates by 0.75 of 1%, bringing it up to 3% now. It's the 8th rise since last December and the biggest single rise since 1989. Stay with us to find out how this is going to affect your mortgage.
Pakistan's ex-Prime Minister Imran Khan is still in hospital, but is said to now be in a stable condition. He was injured in an assassination attempt whilst giving a speech at a rally in the Punjab, wounding him and some of his supporters.
And speaking out for mental health, our Royal Reporter discovers how the Prince and Princess of Wales are supporting young people's well-being. They say visit local organisations in Scarborough.
And as ever, as always, you can join in any of our discussions by emailing gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Well, let's kick straight off then with the news that the Chancellor is set to launch a raid on capital gains as savers, landlords and entrepreneurs are set to lose out, apparently, in the autumn statement in a couple of weeks.
Well, the Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, is attempting to plug that £50 billion black hole in public finances, and higher taxes on capital gains and dividends could raise nearly £16 billion of it.
Well, with the UK expecting to face its longest recession on record, lasting well over a year, so they say, the PM has warned there are no easy choices.
Let's speak to financial markets analyst Fiona Cincotta.
It is, that's right. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're being warmed up for even worse, and it's feeling bad enough already, isn't it?
Oh, gosh, I mean, it just seems to have gone from one thing to another, you know. We've just seen absolute chaos under the Liz Truss and the Chancellor's budget, the Kwasi Kwarteng's budget, the mini-budget, and it just seems now we haven't really stopped. I mean, the markets have calmed down, which is good, but the pendulum seems to have swung completely in the other direction now. We sort of seem to be going for tax rises, we're also going for spending cuts, and now this news that sort of, you know, capital gains tax and dividends tax could also be rising. Let's not forget that, the basis of the UK economy are these small businesses, which are probably going to be hit really quite hard. So, the outlook is very bleak. And we did hear the Bank of England Governor, Andrew Bailey, say that yesterday. They really are expecting quite a tough, long recession. But I think, on the other hand, we have also seen that inflation forecasts have come down slightly, which, if we're trying to find some good news somewhere, that might be it.
I mean, even after the mini-budget, which we're told was all about growth, even Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt have said, well, they're still pursuing a growth agenda, despite all these tax rises and everything else. But the dividends issue is going to stifle growth, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the impression that we're getting from what's coming from this statement on the 17th of November. That does very much feel like it's a way of sort of, stemming growth. And I think there are two different ways of looking at it. Sort of Liz Truss's budget was looking for that sort of trickle-down effect, which isn't something that is necessarily going to be supportive for the economy. It was going to create very much an inflationary background. But perhaps investment would be the way to be sort of looking at this, where the government really needs to be thinking about how it can help push the UK forward. Obviously, we do need to keep in mind, though, that inflation is high. Although the outlook for inflation is coming down, it is very high at 40-year high at 10.1%. So, you do need to rein in growth. There's no way that can stop. We do need to rein in spending, and that does mean some very, very tough times ahead.
One of our earlier guests was making a quite interesting point that the people in the city at the moment, and I suppose the people elsewhere in businesses that are going to have to react to this, didn't live through the last recession, actually. Well, at least they weren't in those. I mean, they were children in the last recession. Are they going to be experienced enough to know how they're going to cope?
It's a good question. And I mean, when we think about when the last recession was, we had the financial crisis back in that 2007, 2008, and there was some very difficult times then as well. But yeah, this might be true, that it's going to be sort of a different generation that's trying to figure the way through this. And they might struggle. And I don't think there's going to be necessarily a sector of society which isn't going to struggle. What we do know is there are certain sectors of the economy that have done very well. For example, energy firms, the oil majors, we've seen some eye-watering profits there, so perhaps more windfall taxes on those could be another way of being able to sort this out.
Can you put it into, because again, it gets very confusing, talked about it last week, the difference between debt and deficit. The £50 billion black hole is deficit, isn't it? So that means it's ongoing until we start to make more taxes. So in that sense, there's £16 billion that would be raised from this move that we've outlined today. That has to be ongoing, doesn't it, until we see growth?
That's right. So you do need to have growth in order to be able to fill in those holes. What the government does do in order to sort of fill holes and to be able to get money is it accesses borrowing through the gilts market, which is very much linked to mortgage rates. So, it's very important for us to also keep an eye on what's going on in the gilts markets. Obviously, we saw with the Kwasi Kwarteng mini-budget, we saw, gilt yields absolutely shot higher. Now they're back at a more steady level. But, if the government does get to the stage where it's borrowing too much in order to be able to sort of move forward with the economy, then that is something that's going to affect households day to day, because their mortgage rates will go up, and also our credit rating could start be affected as well.
So although this is going to be very hard for all of us, for everybody actually in society, this is going to be difficult. Will the markets react very positively to this, do you think? Because it is about reducing deficit, it is about balancing the books, which is presumably what gives them confidence then.
That's right. And so we've seen that stability come back into the gilt market after the chaos that we had previously after the mini-budget. We've seen the sort of the chaos calm down, stability is back in the gilt market. We've seen the pound pick up from the record low that it dropped to against the US dollar, although it is still weak. But the Bank of England is going to want to try and keep that pound not from falling much further, because the other problem that we have is if we have a weaker pound, that brings imported inflation into the country. So, there really is a lot that's sort of, up in the air and that needs to be juggled with. And there's there's no simple path out of it.
No, and politically, that's the danger for the government, isn't it? Because they've got to be able to prove that something's worked by election time, which only gives them a year and a bit.
Completely, which is a very short amount of time. And if listening to Andrew Bailey, there's a good chance that we'll just be, coming out of a, fairly long recession then. So it's not really that much time to be able to turn things around.
But looking at all these measures, as an expert, do you think there's light at the end of the tunnel?
I think as long as we can get inflation down, I think the big risk here is embedded inflation in an economy. And as long as that we can sort of continue to focus on bringing that down, and that will mean that there's going to be a very bumpy, tough couple of months, year ahead. I don't think there's any way that we can get past that. But I do think that there is a possibility that if we focus on bringing inflation down and there is a lot of investment, then we can come out the other side.
Oh, fingers crossed. Fiona Sincotta, really good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.
It's a long time to keep your fingers crossed, though, isn't it?
It is, but do you know what? It gives us a chance now. I know people are really, really struggling, but it's about planning now, isn't it? Plan as best you can for the next year, because there is good. If inflation comes down, we will all feel the benefit, and then other things will follow, hopefully.
I allowed myself one day with the heating on.
Oh, did you?
On Tuesday it was, yes. And it was wonderful. I've forgotten what it was like. It was
Oddly enough,
really
I put
nice.
mine on for 2 hours last night because the house was almost getting... It was so cold, you sort of think, oh, is it going to start getting a bit damp? So I put it on for 2 hours just to give it a boost, and that felt very nice.
Yes.
Faded off, though.
But I think you're right. It is about planning now. You've got to plan, not just go spend in the same way you did a year ago.
Yeah. Plan for a difficult 18 months, and hopefully after 12, we might see some improvement.
Oh, what fun.
Anyway, this time next year, Rodney, we'll all be millionaires or whatever. It's going to look brighter, hopefully. It's going to look brighter. Fingers crossed.
You have to try that laughter yoga.
Oh, yes, from
It was Susan, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We're going to have to get you on, and you're going to have to show us how laughter yoga works, I think.
Yes,
that would be brilliant,
I've never heard of it.
No.
I've got to be honest. Laughter yoga. You can all try... Anna, oh no.
It's Susan, yeah.
Susan.
I'm a laughter yoga coach. It's an alternative way to divert pain and thoughts. Laughter is the best medicine combined with yoga breathing techniques. It's magic. Susan, you're going to have to come in the studio and prove it, I think.
Well, you might have to... Mind you, if we saw the Chancellor coming out of number 11 laughing, he could always say he's doing yoga, couldn't he? It might work. Not like Anna, who says to cheer herself up or whatever, she likes a good old-fashioned mustard bath. That's for chronic pains. What's a mustard bath? Mustard powder? Do you put it out?
It can't be.
English mustard powder?
It must be a different sort of mustard.
I don't know. Worth a try. You wouldn't want to...
We're learning something new.
Don't shave your legs while you're in the mustard
bath.
Can you imagine? That'd be awful. OK, it's 11 minutes past 8. Let's bring you up to date with some of the other stories. And Northern Ireland Secretary Chris Heaton-Harris says he will not call a Stormont Assembly election before Christmas. He has to set a voting date within 12 weeks of the 28th of October, but says he's listened to concerns about the cost of an election at this time. He's announced that he'll make a statement in Parliament next week to lay out the next steps.
The First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, will face questions from Holyrood's Public Audit Committee over the procurement of 2 ferries, which are reportedly over budget and behind schedule. The 2 ships are now due for completion in 23 and 24 at a cost of 3 times the initial contract.
Primary school children running drugs for gangs has become the norm, according to the former Children's Commissioner. In a report by the Commission on Young Lives, there's a warning of a crisis putting hundreds of thousands of children in England at risk of violence. It said COVID and the cost of living crisis have made it easier for children to be exploited.
And Twitter is going to lay off employees today, following a week of uncertainty about the company's future. When Elon Musk took over Twitter, he fired the chief executive and the top finance and legal executives. He's looking to find $1 billion in annual company savings to put the company, as he puts it, on a healthy path. Want to know about a mustard bath?
Oh, go on.
A mustard bath. is a mixture of mustard powder and warm water that people use to soak their feet or the whole of their body. A mustard bath contains powdered mustard seed along with other ingredients like eucalyptus, rosemary or something like that, presumably to help the smell.
Sounds quite nice in a way, but I bet it's a job to clean the bath after that.
Oh, mustard baths make the bath water alkaline due to the addition of sodium bicarbonate or baking soda. Some people claim that the alkaline bath is beneficial to health, though there is absolutely no scientific evidence to support this claim, according to this.
It might just make you feel better. I like a bit of English
Get in
mustard,
the-
but I don't know if I need to wash in it.
No.
There you go.
Try it.
Try. Give it.
Warm you up.
Give it a whirl. Might be the answer. Now, well, you can buy that for a Christmas present, can't you? It's in a mustard powder.
Oh, I'd love that for a Christmas
to
present.
cure
I don't
all
think.
ails.
Yeah.
Well, with Christmas round the corner, you might expect our high streets to be heavy with shoppers, but that's not the case, so it seems.
No, the figures from the British Retail Consortium show that the UK footfall, as it were, was down 11.8% in October compared with 3 years ago. And retail parks and shopping centres are all seeing a decline in visitors. We're just not as keen on shopping, going out to shops as we used to be.
Maybe not. So what does that mean for local businesses? Well, it's not good, is it? Let's talk to our London reporter, Alice Porter, who's in Uxbridge. Morning, Alice.
Good morning. Yes, I'm here in Uxbridge just by the tube station, and as soon as you come out, the first thing you see is the flower shop, which sells lots of beautiful flowers and fruit. And anybody who knows the comings and goings of people in Uxbridge and just how much footfall is coming to Uxbridge is John Craddock, who joins me now, who's the trader here. John, we've got these figures today showing that we've got this drop in footfall. Is that something that surprises you at all?
No, not at all, no. We're noticing a massive decline in footfall at the moment, which is largely down to the fact that obviously the offices, people are working from home, so we're missing out on the office people. This is a huge office town, so at lunchtime you really do notice a huge difference. Obviously on the way home from work, a lot of the office staff will come by and buy flowers and fruit. So yeah, we're noticing a huge decline for that reason.
And has that really been since the pandemic? Because these figures today are really showing over the last few years such a significant drop. Is it the pandemic that's made a difference in people? Perhaps they've changed their habits in terms of their shopping?
I think so, yeah. I mean, yeah, since the pandemic, it has made a big difference, obviously. I think there was always a decline in the high streets because obviously online shopping is so much easier. And then obviously as soon as the pandemic hit and everyone was in lockdown, everyone got used to buying online. So things were so much easier. We find that the shops here aren't necessarily stocking as much as they normally would. The sizes aren't there, the certain items aren't there. It's kind of like they're encouraging you to buy from home rather than come into the high street. So we're facing that as a real challenge as well.
And even if more people were to come to somewhere like Uxbridge or to other sort of perhaps regional towns, I suppose the difficulty is, particularly for small businesses such as yourself, is that doesn't necessarily translate into profit.
Well, no, of course not. No, footfall doesn't necessarily equate to take-ins. I mean, it used to be a little bit more so, whereas now it doesn't necessarily mean just because you've got a town full of people that they're actually spending. I mean, we find that even on the busier days, it doesn't necessarily mean that our profits are up. So, yeah, it definitely makes a difference having people here because you've got the opportunity to sell, you've got the opportunity to put your goods forward. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to completely work.
Now, I know as well as running the store here, you're also involved with Love Uxbridge and you're sort of partnered with different businesses, doing lots of different events in the area, partly to sort of, I guess, get people to come to Uxbridge. Is that what do you think regional sort of towns need to do in order to bring in that footfall, that they're going to have to be a bit more creative?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you definitely need to think outside the box. I think it's a case of bringing things to the high street just things you can't do online. So obviously bringing events to the high street makes a huge difference. I mean, we definitely notice a big increase in footfall, obviously, when we have our events on. Love Uxbridge is a company that basically knows the bid in other towns. Businesses put all their money into a pot. That money is then decided by us and our team at Love Uxbridge what to do with the money, how to use it to benefit the town in all sorts of different areas. One of those areas is events. So we have Halloween events, we have summer events, we do a lot of different things that you know, just to sort of liven things up and bring the community together. It's for us, the community feeling is a really big importance. But again, obviously, to bring in footfall, which is the whole reason why we do it. We run a Christmas market called Tinseltown Christmas Market. We have chalets and stage, and we have entertainment. Love Uxbridge bring in costume characters. Last year at the Light Switch On, We had fireworks, we had LED drummers, and we had, on that day alone, through cellular data, we found out that we had 38,000 people in the town in that day alone. There were 10,000 people here while the fireworks were going off. And even after the fireworks, we still kept 5,000 people here. So that's a huge number for a town like this. So the figures over the course of a year, for one day alone to have 38,000 people, it really makes a difference.
Well, that's nice to hear something optimistic, because it is pretty, I suppose, grim when we hear these statistics of the drop in footfall, and people want to see their high streets invigorated and see people shopping. So I suppose as we look towards Christmas, obviously just around the corner, it's good to know that there is obviously the interest out there, but people are going to have to be creative in their towns to make that happen.
Yeah, definitely, yeah, and it's great. I mean, when we do have these events on, as difficult as it is to plan them, because there's a lot goes on behind the scenes that people don't see, but once it all comes into fruition and we get people in the town, it's fantastic, because most of it, pretty much all of it, is free. All the entertainment's free, so people can come along and enjoy themselves, and to see people enjoy themselves and to make the town feel festive, it really does make it a different place altogether. You know, you notice it because as soon as you get to January, it goes back quiet again, and we're back to having barren high streets, and it's quite a different story. But during these events, yeah, we do. It's quite heartwarming, really, to see so many people having so much fun and young people having so much fun. So it makes a big. We think it makes a big difference.
Well, hey, I don't ever say no to a free event. When is the Christmas event that you sold me there with the chalets and the Christmas stalls? When is it happening?
Yeah, so the Tinseltown Christmas Market opens on the 17th, and the light switch on is the 19th. So the fireworks go up at 5 o'clock. There's loads throughout the day. We've got live bands. We've got, like I say, different costume characters walking around. So it really is a good day. We expect the same sort of figures this year, and yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Well, listen, good luck for it. It's great to hear what you're doing to make sure Uxbridge is still sort of providing so much business for people and keeping people coming to the town. So it's really good to speak to you. Thank you. John Craddock joining me there, who is a local trader here in Uxbridge, a town which I've come to many times. It's obviously doing well and trying to bring people to the area, but it is consistently hard work for a lot of traders in the area, particularly after the pandemic.
Oh, I bet it is. Alice, thanks very much indeed.
It's Boris Johnson's
constituency. It is. There's a shop close to where I live, which is called, and I think there's a few of them up and down the country, called Love Local, which sells just like local made stuff, which is really nice. It's just because it's full of that unusual stuff that you wouldn't see anywhere else and can't just buy online. And so I like that.
I think that's important, and you should do whatever you can to support your local traders. Actually, we're going to be talking about craft festivals, craft shows, because November is the season for Christmas craft shows. So if you're looking at a quite tight budget for Christmas presents and things like that, now is the time to support your local craft fair and also have the chance to buy something that's probably unique, maybe made by a local person, and is probably a little cheaper than a lot of Christmas presents might prove to be.
Yeah, good idea that, actually.
Craft fairs. There's a huge one going on in Birmingham at the moment at the NEC. I think there's another very, very big,
they charge
vast
you
one.
to get in, though?
I don't think so. They might do it at the NEC, but most craft fairs, no. And you can just mooch around, and you can all sorts of different things, from upcycled things. We're going to be talking about upcycled jewellery in about an hour's time. Upcycled things that are just made by local craftspeople, and that are unique. Nice way of doing a local Christmas.
Yes, yeah, not a bad way. It saves a bit of money. All well and good. Look, much more to come for you, including the Prince and Princess of Wales have been to Scarborough to support children's mental health. We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
to each and every one of you
for helping our great nation
find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland,
Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV,
on radio
and online.
We're proud to be
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Hello, I'm Alastair Stewart, and I'd invite you to join me at noon on Saturdays and Sundays for Alastair Stewart and Friends. I've been in this business for over 40 years. Now, here at GB News, I've never been happier. I get to choose the big stories that really interest me. We hear what you have to say, and you hear what I have to say. I really hope you can join me, noon on Saturdays and Sundays.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
It's 8:25, morning to you. It is what we sort of call a bit of a dry day, isn't it? It's all very depressing and not enough to cheer us up. So here's one for you. And actually, a lot of your views are quite... I mean, there's a lot of grim things to talk about. But anyway, so let's try and cheer it up a little bit. Your favourite sandwich, lunchtime sandwich. You'd have maybe thought bacon. That was top of the list at one stage. It's been knocked off by a cheese toastie. That's the most favourite sandwich.
Is that because we can no longer afford bacon?
I don't know. But there's something about a cheese toastie, isn't there, which is really, really nice.
Tuna mayo.
No, well, tuna's very unpopular.
Oh, tuna mayo with tomato in toasted wholemeal pita bread. Ooh. One of my favourite things.
Oh, right. Well, no, well,
When I tell you something else that used to be...
Sausage sandwich is coming in very well.
So in the days when I used to eat meat, a sausage sandwich was wonderful, yeah.
You can have a veggie sausage sandwich.
Yeah, they're not the same.
Oh.
No.
Oh, I don't mind them.
They're the same.
At the southwest of England is the ketchup capital, as you have to have tomato sauce as your favourite sandwich.
You do.
No, I'm not a fan of tomato sauce.
You do.
Brown sauce I like. But there you go. But it's your cheese toastie with a bit of Marmite in it.
Oh, no.
Ooh,
no.
You see, now that's whetting my appetite. That sounds very good. And also, have you noticed they're bringing back Heinz, beans means Heinz, and all that. They're bringing back the Heinz baked bean pizza. That's heading back to the shops. And I noticed in the supermarket yesterday that you can buy Heinz beans burgers. With different
beans burgers. You mean the burgers made of beans?
Yeah, with different flavours in it.
Is that a vegetarian burger?
Vegetarian burgers, but with baked beans in it.
Yeah, baked beans though. I mean, I know bean burgers, but baked beans sound
baked
a bit
bean
odd.
burgers.
Yeah.
Do you know? It's interesting, isn't it? I like a tin of beans myself. put a bit of paprika in it.
Yeah.
Which...
Should have been on a cheese toastie. See, baked beans on a cheese toastie, very nice.
I see a baked bean toastie is also very good.
Well, there you go. Well, that's his.
Plus, you don't have to heat the beans first, do you? You just chuck it in the... and it heats the beans up.
You mean a sandwich?
Yeah.
With cheese in and beans that you haven't bothered to heat up?
Yeah, you don't heat up, and then
you put it in the grill thing.
Yeah. Comes out piping hot. You can't
It
eat
might be worth a go.
You can't eat it for 5 minutes afterwards.
No, but that's nice.
But very good, very good. So if you've got a top choice, let us know. GBviews at
It must be one of those
gbnews.uk.
useful gadgets, isn't it? The toasty thing.
Toasted sandwich maker.
Yeah.
It's a good...
It's a brilliant gadget.
Yeah. I've always got one. I've always had one.
Yes, my son bought me one, and it's used by everybody now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like 15 quid well spent. You don't have to buy an expensive one.
Yeah, that's right. And it's such a quick meal, which is lovely.
Yeah.
Making me hungry.
So send us your thoughts about that, because it gives us something a little bit to cheer up about, rather than just taxation and first aid
absolutely.
and everything else, which is hugely depressing.
But I still do want to find out what laughter yoga is.
Oh, yeah.
So, Susan, if you're still watching, we're going to have to ring you up and find out what laughter yoga is, and you can show us.
Yeah.
Get us all doing
Yeah,
it.
we'll get you get you all down the line and have a little chat. Let's turn our attention to the Royal. And do you know what? I like saying the Prince and Princess of Wales.
Yes.
It's nice to have it back.
Now we've got them back, absolutely. It's lovely, isn't it? Anyway, they've been in Scarborough, spearheading support for young people's mental health and well-being.
Yeah, the town was visited by the future King and Queen for the first time, for the first ever Community Impact Day. It's designed to leave a lasting legacy, apparently. Our Royal reporter, Cameron Walker, was there.
It's not uncommon to see young royals supporting young people, but yesterday's visit to Scarborough was something different. Their popularity and willingness to pose for pictures was an added bonus for the crowds, but the real reason was a new idea designed to leave a lasting legacy and impact. For the first time, the Royal Foundation, which looks after Will and Kate's charity work, is piloting a new Community Impact Day. New funding made possible by their work will support young people's mental health.
Tackling that stigma, talking about mental health and providing services throughout the community are crucial to how we go forwards in dealing with mental health issues that many people face.
And it's teenagers themselves who will decide whether £345,000 of funding will go.
A lot of adults are making decisions for young people, so it was really lovely for young people to be making the decisions for themselves.
Adults don't understand the same problems, because we're going through them problems firsthand right now, whereas adults are not.
I just think there needs to be more help. I think they need to step up the game a bit with mental health services. They don't really have any, they don't do anything.
It's hoped the impacts will be felt right across this seaside town, where almost 1/3 of its residents live in areas among the most deprived in England. The provision of mental health services in Scarborough are often not up to scratch, which means young people can find themselves stuck in a cycle where support is brief and barely helps. It's hoped the new funding will help supporters intervene early to prevent a young person's mental health reaching crisis point. The Sidewalk Youth Project is one of the organisations that supports young people in Scarborough and will benefit from the funding. Lisa Upton is a community wellbeing worker and thinks the provision of services in this seaside town isn't enough.
The effects of the pandemic, it's very difficult for young people to access support, and support doesn't tend to last very long. There's also a huge demand.
William and Catherine have championed mental health provision for years and want to deliver a lasting impact. In 2017, their Heads Together campaign encouraged more people to talk about their feelings and started seeking support as a result. It's understood their Royal Highnesses intend to pilot other Community Impact Days next year, focusing on other issues they're passionate about. Carving out a footprint in the land Prince William will one day lead as King. Cameron Walker, GB News, Scarborough.
Nice to see them out and about, actually.
Yeah.
Go on.
Well, we were saying that they will be the future King and Queen.
Yes.
We don't say they'll be the future King and Queen Consort, do we?
No, we don't.
Why do we still say Queen Consort about Camilla?
Because people are uppity. She's the Queen.
She is the Queen.
She is the Queen.
But time and again, it's not. I mean, it's not. It's.
I know.
BBC, it's all sorts of news outlets. They all say Queen Consort.
I know, it drives me mad.
Not the Queen. It drives me mad. She's the Queen.
Yeah.
You know, get over it.
Yeah, basically. There was a nice shot of Scarborough Beach there. I'm sure it was Scarborough Beach when we went on a family holiday to Scarborough when I was a tot, and I went on a donkey ride.
Of course you did. We did in those days.
Yeah, I went on a donkey ride.
Lovely.
And the saddle slipped.
Ooh.
And apparently I ended up underneath the donkey, hanging on, and I didn't say a word. The fellow was leading it in front.
No, maybe you thought that's what normally happens.
I was only a tot, and my dad running down the beach.
I should think so, because you could have got kicked.
Yeah,
actually.
There you go.
Oh,
that's one of. I mean, not that I remember it, but there you go. Apparently, I said not a word, but just clung on for dear life.
I'll bet. Yes.
Oh, it might have been Scarborough Beach.
You might not have known that's not. You might have thought that was what's normal.
Maybe.
You know.
I think it was.
Take Stephen, put him on a donkey. This is what happens.
Yeah, I think it was also Scarborough Beach that I would only swim in the beach totally naked, because I didn't want to get my swimming trunks wet.
Of course you don't. You were obviously that sort of little boy.
I was only about 2 or 3 or something.
Do we still have donkeys on
do it now.
beaches nowadays?
I don't know.
Would that be sort of seen to be cruel?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how well they're cared for, to be fair, looking back. Do they still have deck chair sellers? I don't know.
No.
Renters? I used to like sitting on a deck chair on the beach. Grange over Sands. Lovely.
Let us know if you live in a seaside resort where they still have donkeys.
And deck chairs.
Or deck chairs. Yeah. Love to hear from you.
Yes, we would. GBViews at gbnews.uk. Anyway, still to come. We'll take you through the papers. David Mellor and Liz Kershaw will be back for one last time.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of 2 wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
On Mark Dolan tonight, we have a simple plan, which is to inform, stimulate and entertain in equal measure. It's all about getting your opinions on the national television airwaves. I love my viewer emails, mark@gbnews.uk. So do join me every Friday, Saturday and Sunday for big guests, big opinions and a big presenter. 6'5", don't you know? See you then on GB News.
Join me, Arlene Foster, for The Briefing on GB News. Every Friday at 3 p.m, I'll give you all the latest political news and analysis, and we'll have robust live debate. To make sure that you're caught up on all of the biggest issues of the day, we'll bring on experts in their field. I'll ask the questions that you'd like to ask. We're not afraid to tackle discussions from all perspectives, including yours. Don't forget, The Briefing with me, Arlene Foster, every Friday at 3 p.m. on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Very nearly 8:38. Good morning to you. And new sandwiches to get you going.
Yeah, I can't remember why we were talking about sandwiches.
I just brought it up randomly.
The nation's most favourite sandwich has now been announced.
I brought up a sandwich, David. I did,
Yeah.
yes. Cheese toasty.
Oh, I see. Well, Michael would agree with you. He says cheese and onion toasty.
Oh.
And Patrick says smoked ham and cheese with a dash of mustard and a packet of plain crisps to add in. Heaven on bread.
Oh, talking of crisps, Clive says a crisp sandwich with thick, soft white bread, plenty of butter. Not particularly healthy, no.
No,
but
there's
yummy.
nothing in that that's particularly good for you at
No,
all.
a crisp sandwich. can't
But
be
then a good sandwich doesn't, you know, you're not going to a good sandwich just for health reasons, are you? David says it's no contest, it's got to be fish fingers and beans. Sandwich.
Felicity says a cheese beano. Beans on toast with cheese on top and bacon on top of that.
Oh, yeah.
Cheese on top, bacon on top. Yeah, sounds quite nice. Clive says bacon and tomato dip. Bacon and tomato dip.
Oh, well, OK.
But Dave has a secret.
Oh, go on.
He says, he's from Wirral. Hi, Dave. A fillet steak sandwich is the best butty ever. I can only ever make one when my wife is at work because she says a fillet steak sandwich is criminal. We all have secrets.
Oh.
I wonder what hers is. Do you?
Yeah. Karen, I like. An onion bhaji on a sourdough cob with lettuce and mango mint chutney. An onion bhaji sandwich, yeah, I could go for that.
I've never understood people who like a fried egg in a sandwich.
Oh,
to me, a
really?
fried egg should be on a plate.
Oh, no, a
shouldn't it?
fried egg sandwich, yeah.
Emily says bacon, a fried egg, tomato and melted cheese.
Oh, no, I could do a fried egg sandwich. Definitely.
I don't understand that. Fried egg is something that should be on a plate with other things.
I know, but then you get all the yolk goes and lots of salt and pepper, bit of brown sauce. Oh, Marmite, you know.
No!
Oh, lovely. Right, I think I might
If I ever came to stay in your house and you offered me breakfast in bed,
All right.
you'd bring Marmite, wouldn't you?
Marmite on toast, yeah.
No.
I'll do you something nice, don't you worry. Let's have a look at the papers for you this morning. The Telegraph describes the Chancellor's plan to launch a raid on capital gains. It says it could raise nearly £16 billion as part of measures to fill the £50 billion public finances black hole.
The Daily Express says there are stormy times ahead as the UK faces its longest recession in a century.
The Mail, reporting on the Manchester Arena inquiry, which reveals several failings, several very large failings by the emergency services.
And HMS Wag sets sail, says The Sun. That's a picture of the luxury liner to be used by the Three Lions' wives and girlfriends during the World Cup.
Let's go through the papers then in a bit more detail with former Chief Secretary to the Treasury, David Mellor, and broadcaster Liz Kershaw. Morning to you both.
Can I have my sandwich now?
What's
What's yours? What's your favourite?
But I mean, this has been good for me watching this because I feel sort of embarrassed sometimes about my gastronomic habits, but I feel I'm quite actually extraordinarily boring compared to all this stuff you've been talking about.
Yes, I know, weird sandwiches. What's your favourite, though?
Well, I have to admit that I'm a corned beef man with Branston pickle, but it's very dull, isn't it?
No,
well,
it's
if it
nice.
works for you.
Yeah.
What about you, Liz?
Well, any sandwich, and by the way, butty, is a success if you get it all over your chin, down your pyjamas. You have to lick your fingers.
Too much
It's a sensual
information.
experience. And so the best one, Warburton's extra thick toasty bread, splattered with Anchor salted butter, freshly cooked hot crisp chips. Press it down, mould it round the shape of the chips, cut it in half, bite into it, butter everywhere. That's my my sandwich.
No one said
sandwich.
chip butty.
No, chip butty is better.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's some weird
works.
things to put in But
Anyway.
tastes lovely.
What about the papers? What do you think?
Well, it's to more...
Well, it's also desperately depressing.
Doom and gloom.
OK, well, I can promise you we're also going to talk about pop music and we're going to talk about Christmas TV ads.
But let's start with tenants.
But for now, this is hidden away, really. This is the page, and the headline is Boo for Sue, and it's all about the Home Secretary, Sue Ellen, as she was christened, going to the camp, Manson camp in Kent, and people who are being put up there booing her. But in the middle of that is something that caught my eye. Natalie Elphick, who's the local MP for Dover, said one mum of 7 was required to leave her privately rented property on no notice so it could be handed to small boat crossers. Now, this struck a chord with me because I got some really sinister calls from the local council, Milton Keynes Council, and I've had letters since. And over the years, I've worked 7 days a week at times, and I've bought properties, and I now rent them to young people who are friends of my sons who wouldn't otherwise be able to have a roof over their head, independent of their parents. They've no chance of buying anywhere, and they haven't got now maybe 3 months rent deposit, etc. So I give them a roof over their head. And I make money now because they're all paid off. But I don't.
You do it at a sensible rate, don't you?
I do it at below market rate, and I pay the council tax.
Yeah.
And so the council have latched on to me because I've come up on the council tax thing. Could we have your houses to put people in? No, you can't. Well, they're empty. No, they're not. I'm helping young people. Oh, are you? And then after the calls I get. So this is going on around the country. And we have got a problem with accommodation. And there was the report out this week, the Office of National Statistics, about the number of people who are still living with their parents and they're into their 30s. And for councils to... I don't blame the council. I don't blame County Council particularly, because they've been really lumbered for the past 15 years. But for them now to be offering above market rents and guaranteed for 12 months and landlords to be kicking people out to house people who've just turned up on the shore, I think is morally wrong.
I agree.
It's very different. Absolutely. I mean, but what are the solutions? Because even if you say, well, we need to build more camps to house people temporarily, that ain't going to happen in a hurry, is it?
No, you're absolutely right. I'm not going to join in this because I agree with what Liz says, and I wouldn't mind if you were moving on to an international story.
Oh no, go on.
That will worry us. I think it's in other places, but it's the front page of the Telegraph. Trump to run for president if midterms go his way. I mean, I think Donald Trump is one of the most damaging figures to have emerged from the weird world of American politics, because he doesn't read anything. He never prepares. He just goes and sort of busks his way through stuff. It's quite dangerous to have a president of the United States who...
But he did a rally yesterday, didn't he? And he still gets hundreds of thousands of people
because
turning out
he is a character. The interesting thing, though, about Trump is, will he still be at liberty to actually run? Because there's serious charges now pending against him for various financial irregularities. But the thing about Trump, if Trump appeared in Succession or something, if Trump was a character in a soap, you'd say, they've really gone mad now. This is a totally unrealistic person. But Trump is everything that is really awful about American business, and he's becoming something that's really awful about American politics.
Well,
the fact he runs the Republican Party effectively is awful.
Well, every time he's mentioned, we get people watching and listening who quite like Trump, who send messages in. However, I have to say, what worries me about Trump is the fact that he has run the country, last time he was in, on division.
Absolutely.
It's about division, and I find that concerning.
See, that is a very good point, because I used to spend a lot of time in America in the 80s, and, sorry, this frightful name drop, was friendly with Ronald Reagan. And the thing about Ronald Reagan, he was Uncle Sam. his job was bringing America together, and he rose above partisanship. He was chairman of the board, and everything he said was about trying to make America a happier, friendlier, more united place. What's become of people like him, you know?
Yeah, it's a fair point. I'm sure you've got a view on that. GBviews at gbnews.uk.
Meanwhile, Liz, you've been looking at these songs that weren't enormous hits at the time they were released, but are now. What's going on?
Well, I've spent my time as a parent saying to my kids, how do you know about that song? You know, tottering around, you know, Mum, have we got any Guns N' Roses? Like, how do you know about Guns N' Roses? So they've picked this up from video games.
Right.
And as they have with Journey's Don't Stop Believing. Well, I remember when they were about 15 and they had a party and all the kids going, don't stop. I'm like, where have you got this from? And it's from Glee. It was featured in Glee.
Yeah.
So my thing has always been, and since there were straps, literally captive audience strapped in the back of the car, unable to escape in seats, they've got to like music that I've played. So they liked, when they were primary school, they liked Neil Young, they liked R.E.M., etc., Guns N' Roses. And so my thing has always been, nobody just likes new music. And nobody says, I only like music from 1968. So this is ironic because the BBC is so obsessed with capturing these young people as an audience who don't listen to the radio. They listen to streaming. They get their music from watching things on Netflix or video games. And there's a new chart being compiled of their favourite songs.
And these are songs that have been streamed?
These are from streaming. So, for instance, Bryan Adams' Everything I Do for You, which was 16 weeks at #1, and me and Bruno Brooks had to play it week in, week out. It's not the favourite Bryan Adams song because people have discovered Summer of '69, which is a brilliant song.
Great song.
Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit. I mean, again, that's 1991, but my sons and their mates love Nirvana. And then the list goes on. Lynyrd Skynyrd, Fleetwood Mac and Elton John are the biggest streaming acts, along with Ed Sheeran. And I mean, ABBA's Greatest Hits has been in the charts now for about 30 years.
Here Comes the Sun, which was not a Beatles single release, was it?
No, it was an album track.
It was just an album track on Abbey Road. And, of course, it wasn't even Lennon McCartney. It was George Harrison who wrote that one. It's now #1 of one of these streaming services.
Wow.
Top 10.
But people will discover music and like music. I mean, you know, when I was a teenager, I loved Duke Ellington and the Andrews Sisters, and you know, I had no business liking that stuff, but I didn't say, oh, you know.
Well, where does Beethoven fit into this? Because I'm feeling a bit isolated.
Oh, I love that. I like people like Debussy and other sort of early 20th century piano music.
Well, classical music is streamed as well. There are streaming services especially for that.
It's true.
Yeah.
But the point is, classical music lasts. I mean, of course, I'm not against popular music, but I think, you know, classical music, you've got pieces written a couple of hundred years ago that are still very popular.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And who doesn't like the Ovaltinis?
Yeah, go on, sing it then.
We are the
Ovaltinis, happy girls and boys. Da, 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 da. Yeah.
There you go. I do find myself...
I used to like their squeaky voices.
Yeah.
I do find myself singing the songs around the supermarket. When they play sort of 80s tracks and things, I end up singing along, embarrassing myself.
And
I'm going to tell...
Can I make an admission to you? One of my proudest moments was presenting a Lifetime Achievement Award to Frankie Valli.
Oh, yeah,
Really?
well done.
And what a great man. And he's still touring, and he's 80-odd now.
Good Lord, really?
And, because those songs from the Four Seasons, what are they, 50s? Yeah. But they're still... someone who's never heard them, you put them on, I can tell you, they will actually, people will go for that. You know, it's not just because they're old doesn't mean they shouldn't be played. But if they are played, and these streaming services allow people to explore a world of music that you wouldn't otherwise get a chance to do.
No, I think that's a very valid point.
Can I be indiscreet and just quickly say I got Stephen Dixon listening to music in his car last Friday, which is unknown.
What?
And what were we listening to? All the big swingers, weren't we?
Well, yeah,
Frank Sinatra.
Oh, yeah. I do like all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, they're wonderful tunes.
Yeah.
I just swing
Ella
around at the
Fitzgerald,
wedding.
what a song.
Oh, Ella's just...
Yeah.
I've got a lot of
voice
Ella
iconic.
Fitzgerald albums because there are some people, and the moment they touch a song, it just changes. Because there's a magic touch.
But don't you find as well that you have to be careful what sort of music you do play in the car because it changes your mood. If you play something quite aggressive, I mean, if you played Beethoven's Fifth in the car, I would start driving too fast.
Yes.
You need to play sort of slightly more gentle or sing-along stuff.
I just recently had to go on a speed awareness course, and at the end he said to us all, "No, you're not going to do this again, are you?" And he said, "I'm going to go around now and I'm going to say, you're going to tell me you're not going to do it, but then I want you to tell me what would be the most likely reason for you to slip again." And he went round and then he came to me and he said, "Liz, under what circumstances might you be tempted to speed again?" I said, "If I was on an open road early in the morning with Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction on, turned up to 11, I might go over the speed limit." And it's true, Anne, you just get something on and
it has a direct effect on your mood and the way you drive, I think.
It does. It absolutely does. A friend of mine gave me the soundtrack to one of the Bond movies once. I can't remember, the one where Judi Dench dies, that one. And put that on and I had a little sports car at the time.
Yeah.
And that made me put my foot down.
Yeah.
Anyway,
another tip that's good is get a karaoke disc for the car. Sing along. Sing along. It's brilliant.
But there's always music for every mood, everything that you're feeling. So if you're fed up and you're fed up with all this doom and gloom, put something on.
Yes.
And just get it off your chest.
Yeah.
Dance around the kitchen.
This is a new world.
Final word, because we've got 20 seconds left, David. Would you sing along to anything in the car?
Yeah, but I wouldn't inflict it on anybody else.
Yeah, but on your own.
On your own in the car would be good.
Yeah, well, I sing along to these Four Seasons things. Walk like a man. I could do the falsetto, but I'm not going to.
It would have been something. That would have been a magic moment.
I used to be able to do the falsetto very well, but age has robbed me of my...
Oh, well, there you go. It's a cruel mistress. David, Liz, thank you both very much indeed. Catch up with you very soon, no doubt. We're back with all the top stories for you after the weather.
Hello, I'm Aidan McGibbon from the Met Office. It's a chilly start out there for many of us, the coldest morning for some time. Further showers continue through the morning and into the afternoon for some, but for many, sunny spells. Now, an area of low pressure which has brought some lively showers overnight is now clearing the far southeast. Once that's out of the way, we've got this ridge of high pressure which has already brought clear skies and lighter winds to northern and western parts of the country, and that's why we've had that chill in the air first thing. But plenty of bright weather, and actually for many, it's a sunny afternoon. Temperatures in many places struggling after that cold start, but with the sunshine and light winds feeling pleasant enough. Now, there'll be some further showers into the northwest of Scotland, running through the Irish Sea into northwest England and North Wales. But away from those, and with the bright skies, feeling fine. 13 or 14 in the south, 10 or 11 in the north. Into the evening, there'll be further clear spells for a time, and as a result, temperatures fairly widely will fall away. But there'll also be further showers into the west, and then by the end of the night, cloud and a freshening breeze as well as spells of rain will move into the west of the UK, so Northern Ireland, West Wales and the southwest corner. That will lead to an uptick in temperatures by the end of the night, 9 Celsius in places, but a touch of frost is possible across central and eastern Scotland, eastern England as well. It's here where we'll see the brightest skies first thing, but really by about 9 or 10 in the morning, the outbreaks of rain in the west have pushed east. The rain will weaken as the day goes on. It will become lighter and more patchy. It will also clear Northern Ireland, Western Scotland to sunny spells. 13 Celsius in Northern Ireland, 11 for Scotland, 13 or 14 across large parts of England and Wales, albeit with the strong breeze and those outbreaks of rain. The rain eventually clears southeastwards through Saturday night and into Sunday, could last for some time in the southeast on Sunday itself. Showers follow widely elsewhere.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akua, on Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Every Saturday at 2 o'clock, join me, Darren Grimes, for Real Britain. I'm not afraid to give you a platform and say it how it is.
Come on, make the case. Something like this is very, very important to people.
And we're always up for a laugh on this show.
God, honestly, you'd think there were no problems in the world.
Real Britain, every Saturday on GB News.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
For helping our great nation
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England,
Scotland,
Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV.
On radio and online.
We're proud to be
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello again, it's 9 o'clock on Friday the 4th of November. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Anne.
As you know, we're live across the whole of the UK on your TV and your radio. Wherever you are, whatever you're up to this morning, you can take us with you. These are your top stories.
The Bank of England has raised interest rates by 0.75 percentage points, bringing it up 3%. This is the 8th rise since last December and the biggest since 1989. Do stay with us to find out how this rate hike is going to affect you.
Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan is in hospital but in a stable condition. He was injured in an assassination attempt while giving a speech at a rally in the Punjab province, wounding him and some of his supporters.
There's a growing trend for all things sustainable and recycled, even jewellery. We'll meet one woman who's turned her hobby quite literally into gold.
And we'd love to hear from you this morning. We've got some interesting ones coming through on some lighter subjects, which is very, very nice. GB Views at gbnews.uk.
Lynn says, OMG, how long has it been since you two have been to a British beach? You better get yourself off to the beach.
Yeah, it's been too long.
Because we were asking, do they still have donkeys on British beaches? And it appears that they do.
They do. Angela in Leeds says, I think I rode the same donkey as Stephen on Scarborough Beach, where I slipped underneath it.
Yeah.
Angelo says Weymouth still has donkeys, deck chairs and a Punch and Judy show.
And Skegness, according to Stuart, still has beached donkeys.
Peter is 75, morning Peter, but as a youngster I used to look after the donkeys on Scarborough Beach. We had Champion, Sabrina and Trigger. There are still donkeys there.
Oh, that's brilliant. We still have them in Cleethorpes, says Steve. Many stories over the years about our donkeys.
And Deirdre is also in Scarborough, says they're still here and can often be seen holding up the traffic on their way backwards and forwards.
Pauline and Annie say 20 years ago, my partner and I hired deck chairs on Scarborough Beach. It was freezing and we sat there wrapped up in coats, hats and scarves. But it was magic, even with the wind whipping round us. The sun was shining and later on we had fish and chips in newspaper. Happy memories. They were the days.
Oh, cracking.
They don't make days like that anymore.
You see, and it's lovely, isn't it? That and your favourite sandwich and the emails go mad. Sometimes we all just need to talk about and get in touch about some of the lighter stuff.
Thank you. Nostalgia to keep you warm.
Yeah. Lovely stuff.
Mike says they still hire deck chairs at Margate, because that's something else we were asking about. No donkeys for years, but occasionally you do still see people riding horses on the beach.
See. It's what you need. We need to go to a beach. We'll do a show from a beach.
Yeah.
We were going to get that sorted. We have to wait till it's a bit sunnier. But
Yes.
we are going to get out and about on the road a bit in the next year. So that's something to look forward to, hopefully. To our main news this morning, though, the Chancellor is set to launch a raid on capital gains as savers, landlords, entrepreneurs are set to lose out, so we're told in the autumn statement.
We're bracing ourselves for it, aren't we? Jeremy Hunt is attempting to plug that £50 billion black hole in public finances. And higher taxes on capital gains and dividends could certainly raise a little bit of that.
Well, with the UK expecting to face its longest recession on record, lasting more than a year, the Prime Minister has warned at the moment there are just no easy choices.
David Mellor is still with us, and of course he was former Chief Secretary to the Treasury.
Yes,
it's going to be
in better times.
In better times, yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, what I mean, would you do anything different at the moment?
Well, I think what I certainly, this is not being wise after the event, I certainly wouldn't have spent the money that the Treasury spent on the pandemic, and I certainly wouldn't have allowed Liz Truss or Kwasi Kwarteng anywhere near a major government office, because they undoubtedly added what are international problems. They put a particularly British spin on those problems, and that is why inflation is higher in the UK than lots of other countries. But I think it can be dealt with, but dealing with it will be at huge political cost, because obviously people think if inflation is 10%, they're entitled to a 10% pay rise, and there are plenty of trades unions that are trying to push that. But it's equally true, and we saw this in the days of Harold Wilson and Dennis Healey, that if you have a 10% pay rise, when are you going to get rid of inflation? You're not, because that just adds to a price spiral. But these are going to be very difficult times. The issue is, of course, how long will a recession last? I see the Bank of England was suggesting it could be 2 years. I would hope that's pessimistic, but one thing is certain, the good times are not going to roll for some time.
But we've got to grow. I mean, the thinking seems to be we need to grow ourselves out of a recession.
Yes.
Right? But how are we going to do that if dividends are being taxed even higher?
You see, this is the problem. There's going to be a lot of downward pressure on the economy and on economic activity, and it's extremely difficult to have growth in that context. But and I think one of the problems is, one of the things that we didn't get a chance to do in the papers was the suggestion that the Bank of England is trying to have it both ways. The one, they're trying to go for, they want growth, but on the other hand, everything they're doing puts downward pressure on economic activity. I don't have as much confidence, perhaps, in this governor as I do in some of the ones that I used to work with.
No, a lot of people are complaining about it.
Yes, Andrew Bailey. I think he was one of those who happened to be there because he was the last chap left on the bench. I mean, I wish him well, because it's not in anybody's interest that there is a mess here. But the problem is, a lot of the politics in this country actually works against trying to sort all this out, because inevitably, if you say to somebody, the way prices are going up, I do the food shopping in our household, I'm quite shocked. The price of ordinary basic food.
Yeah, cooking oil, bread.
Yes, it's
very
ridiculous.
noticeable, isn't it?
But
Pasta.
if people then go for 10-15% pay increases, that becomes impossible. And I think it was Anoirin Bevan of all people who said, "Why look in the crystal ball when you can read the book?" We know what happened because in the days of Harold Wilson, they did actually succumb to a lot of the pressures to compensate people for inflation by huge pay rises. And inflation touched, 27-28%?
Crumbs.
Yeah.
So but you see, what is very hard to swallow and what is going to be difficult politically in all of this is that there is no way of avoiding the pain, and the pain is going to be felt the most by those who are already worse off.
That's right. And it's very difficult for politicians who, a politician needs some credibility. When John Major said there's no gain without pain, people, I think, gave him the benefit of the doubt. This lot, they're not going to give them the benefit of the doubt. They really are not. And this is why so much of what has to be done, the politicians trying to do it do not have the credibility to get it through, because people will assume it's a conspiracy against their standards of living. It isn't something that has to be done for the benefit of the whole country.
Won't there be an awful lot of pressure on Jeremy Hunt, and presumably Rishi Sunak as well, an awful lot of pressure in a year's time? You must win the next general election for the Conservatives. Therefore, you must do something popular now.
Well, of course. But I would hope they're sensible enough to know that the most popular thing they can do is drive down inflation. But equally, they will be blamed for inflation having got where it's got. Look, personally, I think the Conservatives are doomed at the next election. The only issue is how badly they lose. I say that from experience because when John Major won a spectacular and surprise victory in 1992, and then the ERM, I'm not going to go into what the exchange rate mechanism was, even if I can remember, but that then created a huge collapse of confidence in the government's economic management. They then had 4 years. Remember, this lot have only got 2. They then had 4 years to make get the economy right. They did get the economy right, but it didn't do them any good because the public had made their minds up. This lot should be out. And my worry, Mr. Miller, he feels the public will have made their minds up about this government.
From what we know about Labour policy at the moment, of course, they're not as detailed as they perhaps could be, because that's the way of opposition parties at this point in the electoral cycle. But from what we know about what they've proposed, are they coming up with anything which would make things better?
I think, the thing about Labour is they can always chuck it away. And, it was pointed out to me by a distinguished ex-colleague that the thing I needed to remember about what happened between 1992 and 1997, when the Tories lost more than half of their parliamentary seats, including indeed my own one, and that was that Tony Blair was very popular. I don't think that the Labour front bench and its leader are very popular at all at the moment. And so it could still slip away. But the worry is the terminal disillusionment that the public are feeling with politics in general and with electoral politics. There is a plague on all your houses out there. And this situation is going to make that even worse, I think.
So maybe nobody would really win anyway.
Well, I mean,
I know what somebody...
They have to vote for somebody, but I would bet. I mean, I've had a £5 bet already with one of your colleagues on a weekly. I said 50, but no, he wasn't going to get lauded that. But the reality is, I think that the Tories have got just too much to do. But do I think that Labour are going to actually be triumphant because people believe in Labour? No. It's like that bumper sticker in America. It was very popular at one time. The shame is one of them's got to win. Yeah.
Or maybe not quite win. I mean, that could be...
Yes.
It could be an absolute mess. A hung parliament, couldn't it? If I was going to put my fiver on it, that's what I'd put, fiver on a hung parliament.
Would you?
And we'd be endlessly debating that then.
Well, that'd
be fun.
But this is good for programmes like this.
Well, I suppose so.
Well, yeah.
The talking shops.
The talking shop, yeah. David, thank you very much indeed. It doesn't fill you with a huge amount of confidence,
No,
does it?
It's not something to look forward to, a hung parliament, is it?
Well, no, though it worked all right last time, didn't it? I mean, 2010, the coalition
Yeah, but it's a little more
worked.
frightening as to the deals that might be done this time, don't you think?
Well, it'd be Labour and Lib Dems, wouldn't it?
And SNP.
I don't know if they would. SNP would, because obviously there's fundamental differences on the SNP wouldn't join anything without a guarantee on another referendum
That's
or
right.
something.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, we shall see. We're guessing it might be an out-and-out victory for one of the parties.
What's your prediction? gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Let's bring you up to date with some of the headlines at 12 minutes past 9. And primary school children running drugs for gangs has become the norm, according to the former Children's Commissioner. In a report by the Commission on Young Lives, there was a warning of a crisis putting hundreds of thousands of children in England at risk of violence. It said a combination of COVID and the cost of living crisis are all making it easier for children to be exploited.
The First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, will face questions from Holyrood's Public Audit Committee over the procurement of 2 ferries, which are reportedly over budget and behind schedule. The 2 ships are now due for completion in 23 and 24 at a cost of 3 times the initial contract.
Twitter is apparently going to lay off more employees today following a week of uncertainty about their future. When Elon Musk took over, he fired the chief executive and the top finance and legal executives. He's looking to find $1 billion in annual savings to put the company, as he puts it, on a healthy path.
And people would legally have the right to see their GP within 7 days or 24 hours under plans drawn up by the Lib Dems. The party is warning of a postcode lottery system in the GP system, where the wait time could be more than 2 weeks for an appointment. The plans are expected to be announced by Sir Ed Davey over the weekend.
Now, the Prime Minister has confirmed that he will now be attending the COP27 summit, which starts in Egypt on Sunday.
Yeah, it's a U-turn, isn't it? He's reversed his previous decision not to attend. The Prime Minister is travelling to Sharm el-Sheikh to hand over the COP presidency to Egypt after the UK hosted COP26, if you remember, in Glasgow last November. So ahead of Sunday's COP27 opening, our economics and business editor Liam Halligan met Vice President of Siemens UK, Steve Scrimshaw.
I get it that that we need to keep the lights on. We need to make sure people have affordable electricity, etc. Net zero actually will deliver us a sustainable, secure energy independence at an affordable price in the future. And I think it's a bit like we have to, fix the roof a little bit when it's raining, but also plan for the future as well. So the commitments that the government have made with the commitment to having net zero by 2035, I think that will also help us in the future to make sure that we've got affordable energy. For example, if we didn't have the gas price now, the offshore wind business is delivering competitive electricity prices. So this is in effect future-proofing the energy system so that we are not reliant on this global market in the future so much.
Tell us about the progress we've made. Not so long ago, 40% of our electricity was generated using coal. Now it's almost none. Renewables are a major part of our energy mix. Gas, though, is still 35 to 40%. To what extent are renewables already helping us?
Renewables are helping us significantly. I mean, if you look, we've got, 12, 14 gigawatts of renewables in the sea at the moment.
What does that mean to my mum?
To your mum, it means we've got lots of offshore wind farms that are out in the sea. She probably can't see them, being connected up to the national grid.
But there are days when renewables are 20, 30, even 40% of our energy mix, right?
They are indeed. And you'll hear things talked about like hydrogen, and you'll hear things talked about energy storage. So when you have wind, we have days when there's lots of wind, but we don't have the demand for energy. That's when we need to start thinking about energy storage. And some of the things that we want to talk about is to get the industry to start talking about policies around energy storage, long duration energy storage. So when the sun don't shine, when the wind ain't blowing, you've actually captured wind energy when you didn't need it, and then you can use that stored energy to provide cheap electricity to homes and businesses across the country.
But you can watch that full 20-minute interview of Liam Halligan's Money Talks with Steve Scrimshaw on the Money Talks podcast, or via the GB News YouTube channel, or indeed on the GB News app.
Meanwhile, there's lots more to come, including can you make money from a hobby, and should you support your local craft fair when you're thinking of Christmas presents? We'll find out more in a moment.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
for helping our great nation
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
On TV.
On radio and online.
We're proud to be
The People's Channel.
Britain's
News channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Hello, I'm Alastair Stewart, and I'd invite you to join me at noon on Saturdays and Sundays for Alastair Stewart and Friends. I've been in this business for over 40 years. Now, here at GB News, I've never been happier. I get to choose the big stories that really interest me. We hear what you have to say, and you hear what I have to say. I really hope you can join me. Noon on Saturdays and Sundays.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Welcome back. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
Yeah. Now, as we look forward to Christmas, yes, we are looking forward to Christmas, I wonder if you're already Christmas shopping?
Well, yes, because November is the time for Christmas craft markets, apparently. And joining us to tell us more is jewellery designer Sharon Aslett. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
You brought in some of your wares, which we'll have to describe to our listeners on the radio.
So if you're looking at Christmas craft markets all November, So now is the time to get out there and do your Christmas shopping.
Absolutely. Christmas craft fairs are a big time in November. You've got a lot of different suppliers making lovely homemade items at Christmas.
Yeah, so actually, in a way, I mean, we're looking at it because it's a good way of buying something in plenty of time for Christmas, supporting your local craft fair. So that means supporting traders and people who make things like you do,
Yes,
Sharon.
I do.
And actually probably getting it a bit cheaper than you would if you were going onto the high street.
And they're unique as well. That's what I love about going to craft fairs, because you're just getting one-offs that are not like mass-made and something that you can really treasure.
That's right, and people are so passionate about their crafts, and you know they can often bespoke things to your requirements, change things. There's so many different options.
Because this is what you do. You do what,
Yes.
what you call upcycling jewellery.
Exactly.
What is that?
So my pieces are designed from old, broken or unwanted jewellery. I take the pieces apart and then I redesign them into new, unique pieces. So everyone's a one-off different design.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at all these lovely necks you've brought along, showing off some of your bits and pieces. And these wouldn't have originally looked like that. They might have been entirely different sorts of
So
jewellery.
for example, this one here would, the diamantes on that started its life as a bracelet.
Wow.
Oh.
So
Yeah, it's this one that I'm holding.
Yeah, that was
here.
a bracelet. So I took it apart and then matched it with some nice little beads. And this nice pink one here, these beads were on a choker, and I took them apart again and matched them up into a nice set.
And did you make the earrings as well that go with it?
Yes.
But can you make enough money out of this? Because I have to say, you've handily left all the price tags on these. They're cheap. They're cheap, 10 quid, 12 quid. I mean, it's not a lot of money to pay for a necklace.
Well, at the moment, it's sort of a start-off, sort of little hobby type, small business, for example. So until I make my name and famous...
What? Sorry, no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's this time I'm sort of trying to be realistic with, how cost of living is around. People, haven't got a lot of spare cash, so I understand that, so I'm trying to keep the prices fairly reasonable for people.
But that's the great thing, I think, about the Christmas craft markets, is that you're more likely to get something that's unique and that isn't going to cost the earth, and you are supporting somebody local. I mean, I have to confess, Sharon lives in the same village as me, which is how I discovered you. I mean, the piece you're wearing is absolutely gorgeous. It must be one of yours, I presume.
Yes, it is.
It's an upcycled piece, but it goes with your outfit, doesn't it?
Yes, I matched it up to my jacket today. So,
and this I'm wearing is one of yours.
Yes,
and I'm wearing one of hers as well. But I
Stephen,
found
you're
out...
missing out.
I'm missing out. I know.
I've got a lovely piece for you right here, Stephen. I'm a lady who loves her jewellery, and I think I'm so glad to know about upcycling, because, before I just thought, just get anything, and not realising the story behind them. And I think it's so good as a jewellery wearer to become a bit more conscious of where your stuff is coming from and how it's been made.
You got your eye on any of these?
Oh, all of them, man. There's one with the pearls.
That one?
I want to be the girl with the pearl
No,
earring.
I like that one. I like that.
I can also
get that close up on
make
camera 9,
pieces
maybe.
for special occasions. So, for example, I've made one for a lady who was going to the theatre and she wanted a special necklace, and I've also made making some nice wedding jewellery as well for people.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's a great thing to do and a great thing for people to support.
You have a busy November.
Very busy November. I think every weekend is booked up in November with different events at different places, local craft shows, big and small. Because
there are some huge ones. There's a huge one on at the NEC at the moment.
Yeah, I don't tend to do the big ones. I'd like to keep it local and support the local areas around me. Really.
Great, lovely stuff. We'll have to get Stephen a little bracelet.
I do, yes.
One of the necklaces.
Oh, I have a selection of bracelets.
Oh, well, there you go. Thank heavens I've got my wallet with me. Look, really good to see you this morning. Thank you.
Is that when
Thank
Stephen
you so
took one
much.
look at this and said, that's a bit Theresa May?
Theresa May, but I always liked Theresa May's stuff because it was bold.
But she does love big stuff like that.
Well, it's a standout statement beady necklace, that one, isn't it?
Yeah,
But, you can also the colours with that. You can match it with so many different colour outfits.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lovely.
I wonder if Theresa May gets hers from craft markets.
Well, she probably does.
Anyway, well done, Sharon. Thanks very much for coming in. Your website is called
shazazjewelry.co.uk.
There you go. Why not?
1 Z and then 2 Zs. It's made from my name,
Sharon Azet. With it.
Look, that is it from us. We're back 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. But up next, the briefing with Tom Harwood.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
On Mark Dolan tonight, we have a simple plan, which is to inform, stimulate and entertain in equal measure. It's all about getting your opinions on the national television airwaves. I love my viewer emails, mark@gbnews.uk. So do join me every